and welcome to
Let's talk about book.
where we talk about
Book.
And we've got our special guest, Holly.
She just came over here and sniffing around. It's the pup.
Yeah, there was another dog on top of us earlier when we tried to start recording, or when we were like getting ready, but then they ran off to go bark at something, but they're returning. Yeah.
But yeah, we're like second to last section of the Hero of Ages.
It's quite something. And I was like not thinking about the fact that like I only have one section left to read until like you pointed it out recently, and then I was like, oh fuck. so yeah, that's exciting. And so we've been thinking about what we're gonna do next.
Yep.
And we're thinking that we're gonna try and
I think we've officially decided.
Yeah.
It seems like we finally decided. We've been like throwing things around for like ages now.
Yes, we've been throwing around a bunch of different ideas, and we keep being like, ooh, this, and then ooh, this, and then like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
But we're gonna try, and this is perhaps foolish of us, considering this is currently an episode that we're late in getting out. But we're thinking about doing 2 books at the same time.
Yep.
Where I will be the first reader for Cradle.
Yep.
And you'll be the first reader for
Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right. And have we said the word Smeevca and Strawberry?
No, I don't think so in this episode.
No, but
I'm Strawberry.
yeah. But we're thinking about doing them at the same time, and the idea would be that whenever we sit down to record, we record like both at the same time, and so then maybe we could do like every week instead of every other week.
Yeah, but only record like
every other week still. Which, we'd probably want to get the episodes maybe a little shorter or something.
Yeah.
Because recording can be a bit of a long process.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see how it works. I've been re-listening, or I've been listening to Alt Shift X, his videos on like Game of Thrones today at work and stuff.
I was just watching to a podcast talk about Cradle, because there's only like one that I've found that I've really enjoyed, and I was watching that recently for Cradle.
Yep. So I've been getting sort of like re-excited about Game of Thrones, and you've been wanting me to read Cradle for a while now.
Yeah.
Every now and then it'll be like, what do we watch? And you're like, you could listen to Cradle. And then I don't.
It's a grand old time.
But I will do it. And
it'll be quite the
juxtaposition.
Yeah. One very anime and over the top, and
one more sort of like gritty and grounded and realistic. I feel like they will also both make for an interesting juxtaposition comparison against what we've been reading with Sanderson.
Yep. Yeah.
Where it's like, because from what I understand, Cradle, it gets like way anime. Yeah. And like, it's not that it's not dark, but just like the tone is different.
The tone is definitely different.
Like, Mistborn we're still definitely like taking things seriously. Yeah. And then with like Game of Thrones, it's like more dark and more sort of like,
Yeah. And Cradle, like it definitely has like it's dark stuff, but it's it's leans a bit more like comedic at times, and then it feels very like kind of. I always describe it as like reading a shonen anime.
Right.
Like,
it's a bit more sort of melodrama in that sense than like sort of like the kind of drama that like this book and Game of Thrones are maybe sort of going for. Like, it's still like, character stuff, but like just sort of in a different way.
Yeah.
So sort of like big emotion. I don't know. I mean, I haven't read it.
We'll have to see. I'm quite excited about both of them.
There's just like a part of me that's worried I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, you've played little clips for me.
Yeah.
And like, like one of the little clips you played recently I enjoyed. But a lot of times you play a clip for me and it means nothing.
Yeah, it's completely out of context, so it's not,
it just means kind of nothing, and I'm just like, yep, these are words.
Yeah.
But you know, when actually like reading it, like actually like getting into it, I'm sure it'll be a different story. But I'm still just like, part of me is like, oh no, because you like it so much that I'm worried that I'm gonna like not like it, and I'm like, oh no. But why are they bark?
Yeah.
Is it squirrels? It's probably just squirrels.
Squirrels or Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon squirrels.
Amazon squirrels.
Yeah. Do they have squirrels in the Amazon? It feels like
Amazon.
Yeah.
Hey, puppy.
I know there's like rats all over the world. I wouldn't be surprised if squirrels are also kind of everywhere. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there are no squirrels in the Amazon. It's some other kind of thing. But you know, there's squirrels on this continent, and they're a connected continent. Anyway, none of that's important. We have the pups here with us now.
Oh, and talking about like you've read Game of Thrones and I haven't. I have read a little bit of Game of Thrones.
Right.
I've read a little bit of the first book. I don't remember a ton. I do have some I am spoiled on some like big
things because of just like the sheer cultural.
Yeah, I've seen some of the TV show. I know the Red Wedding. You know, like some of that kind of stuff. But you know,
right? Yeah. There's some of the things I do feel like, because like I remember like I knew that the Red Wedding was a thing, but when I was reading, I didn't know that I was about to be reading the Red Wedding, so I still got like caught off guard by it because I didn't know like when it was going to be happening and stuff. And my roommate was like, knew that I was about to be at the Red Wedding, and it was like, hey, I'm working on like homework, you want to like come over and like read?
I love it.
Yeah, it was great. And then you just like watched me read it and was just like, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It was fun.
That is great.
Yeah, but I'm excited because like even if you know some of the things, it's just like there's so much in the series. It's so like intricate.
I'm very like intrigued and stuff. There's a lot that I don't know.
Yeah, like because part of me just wants to say random things at you and be like, does this ring any bells?
Yeah.
You know, if I said this, does that mean anything to you? You know, but I'm too afraid to actually like try something like that. You know, because I used to just sort of like. I think just like say random things about it.
Talk about it some and stuff like that.
But now that it's like, oh, we're going to be talking about it on the podcast, I'm like, oh, well, I should, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
Yeah. And then also, so we were talking about next we want to do Game of Thrones and Cradle at the same time. And then we'll do 3 books of, since Cradle's a long series, we're going to kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, Cradle's a long series,
but
short books. And Game of Thrones is also, it's like 5 books, but the books are really long.
Yeah.
And so we'll probably just do like 1 Game of Thrones book, a few Cradle books, and then do something else after that?
Yeah. I'm thinking after 3 Cradle books, I want to head back to Sanderson. I was thinking Elantris.
Yeah. Do we want to like also, do we want it to be like, oh, Elantris and Game of Thrones, or
maybe,
yeah, where it's because just like it'll probably take a while to get through the dogs have stopped barking. They're now just chilling, or at least, you know, they were. As soon as I started recording again, Holly's now
getting up
because she yearns for mischief. but yeah, it'll probably take a while to get through what there is of A Song of Ice and Fire, because even though it's like only 5 books and Cradle's like 13 books or something, the Song of Ice and Fire books are much longer. I don't know which is the longest book. It might be like 4 or 5 is the longest book. I think the first book is like shorter than the others, but I don't know by how much. I think that they kind of get longer as they go, but I don't know if the 5th book is like the longest one or not.
Yeah.
The third one might be the longest. I don't know. but the point is that they're long and they're kind of dense.
Yeah.
So it'll probably take a while to get through them. So if we sort of continue to go back and forth between it and other things like Sanderson stuff and Cradle stuff, then you know.
That's gonna be our plan for the foreseeable future.
Right. And then I could see it sort of going the other way where like we're on like, I mean, we could just sort of do like, here's one book and then not do the second Song of Ice and Fire book for like a while.
Yeah.
You know, because like I also
could do like a Stormlight book or something, because those are another like huge, you know.
Right, because like I could see us being like, and now we're doing Stormlight and something else for a while. But yeah.
So that's our thoughts and plans. The most concrete plans is after this one, we're doing Unsold, the first book of Cradle, and Game of Thrones, the first Song of Ice and Fire book.
Yep. Yep. So that's our little update.
Yep.
Also, we're gonna try doing like the whole what we've been reading thing.
Yes.
Like at the end. Because I see that like it often sort of gets skipped. In the watch time, which makes sense. Yeah. But like if you're gonna skip, then just put it at the end. I guess
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's fun. It's nice to be like, here's what we've been doing. But I get that like people kind of want to just jump to the book that we're talking about and stuff. But I'm sure the timestamps I'll call this one like channel update, what we're reading next, kind of thing. So, you know, maybe actually watch this one, but I'm already saying it after
like 10 minutes or whatever.
After like, 12 minutes or whatever. So it's like, but we should probably actually get to the epigraphs.
Yeah, the epigraphs.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Epigraph for chapter 53.
Mm-hmm.
The pact between preservation and ruin is a thing of gods, and difficult to explain in human terms. Indeed, initially there was a stalemate between them. On one hand, each knew that only by working together could they create. On the other hand, both knew that they would never have complete satisfaction in what they created. Preservation would not be able to keep things perfect and unchanging, and ruin would not be able to destroy completely. Of course, Ruin eventually acquired the ability to end the world and gain the satisfaction he wanted. But then, that wasn't originally part of the bargain.
Yeah. My brain is having to, like, shift.
Yeah.
Because as I was saying in the last section, I've been listening to, like, the Game of Thrones stuff, and also I listened to this section a little while ago at this point, since we didn't record right away. So I'm, like, having to, like, shift my brain, like, oh, right, what?
Yep.
Yeah. Is that ours? Yeah. Gotta go let the pup in. But yeah, while Straub's doing that, the pact between ruin and preservation. Well, preservation and ruin. Yeah, it's interesting, because they're like gods, and they have like a pact with each other. And they've talked before about like trying to understand gods, and like, oh, that was the body of a god. But how do we even like understand at the time, and how like what are these gods like? How do they go about making pacts with each other? Like obviously we know that what ruin and preservation want. They say it right here, but it's like why does ruin even like want to create? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it's like he has to create something so that he can destroy something.
Yeah.
But it is sort of like they have to work together in order to create things. Yeah. Because preservation is not creation.
Yes. Preservation is not creation.
So it's like, but this one says like, how do ruin and preservation sort of come together to become creation?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, logistically, philosophically, how does that pan out? Like how do I make that work in my head? Like, if you preserve and ruin a thing at the same time, you create it. I don't know. I mean, if they're each sort of like it, because I'm still working on like a. Because of kind of hints you've given me in your reaction to things, a sense of like I am coming at this from like a Kabbalistic perspective of like these are different sort of aspects of a greater God in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
like, if you were to get all these aspects together, then they would form complete God.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like how it is in Kabbalah. We have the different aspects of God. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, just by, like, having more of God together as one, it maybe, like, just more power for creation and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know, it's like, what does it look like for them to work together?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But yeah, the next epigraph.
Yeah, I'll have stuff to talk about with that. I think as we get going. The chapters. Yeah, I looked through this like the other day.
Right, because I've already forgotten so much. Yeah. Because I just like listened to it and then haven't gone back. So I need to like re-remember. I'm sure like as we go through the chapters, I'll be like, oh right.
All right. Next one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Preservation's desire to create sapient life was what eventually broke the stalemate. In order to give humankind awareness and independent thought, Preservation knew that he would have to give up part of himself, his own soul, to dwell within humankind. This would leave him a tiny bit weaker than his opposite, Ruin. That tiny bit seemed inconsequential compared with their total vast sums of power. However, over eons, this tiny flaw would allow Ruin to overcome Preservation, thereby bringing an end to the world.
Yeah.
This, then, was their bargain. Preservation got humankind, the only creations that had more preservation than ruin in them, rather than a balance. Independent life that could think and feel. In exchange, Ruin was given a promise, and proof that he could bring an end to all that they had created together. It was the pact, and Preservation eventually broke it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's interesting, and I'm kind of curious about that, because it's like, I can see animals as kind of being like combination preservation, ruin, you know?
Yeah.
The animals have a sense of self-preservation, but they also, you know, eat and consume and break things down, and they fight and kill and all that sort of stuff, which are sort of ruins kind of things. It was interesting, this idea of like humans somehow being more preservation than everything else.
Yeah.
And also how that somehow allows for like sentience and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like sapience, you know? Yeah. And it also makes me curious, considering it's like, I know that the wider Cosmere exists.
Yes.
And that there's other just like people.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, well, where did they come from?
Yeah.
How'd they get here? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just curious. It's like, I have some like wider like Cosmere questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's like I get this stuff. Also,
like, do you think this is like just here or whatever? Like,
or well, it's like I kind of assume that it's just here. That ruin and preservation aren't going to be like a thing that comes up in the other ones, but I don't know because.
Like, were other humans across the place all created by...
Right, by, like, ruin and preservation. Yeah, because it's, like, they're bound here, you know, it's, like, ruin is, like, bound in, like, the Well of Ascension, like, in this place.
Yeah.
On
he was
this
bound
planet.
there.
So it's, like, I don't know, could have made everything elsewhere, too, but, like...
Yeah, well, it seems like Preservation, like, locked him away, like, after,
like,
they made humans and stuff.
Right. Yeah, but it's just, like, why here?
Yeah.
I guess, and, like, yeah, I don't know. I'll need to, you know, get more into Cosmere to have any sort of, like, actual...
Yeah.
Sort of thing to say about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your purely like nothing thoughts. Your pure like
my pure based on nothing thoughts are that like I assume that this is just this series thing. So is thus not responsible for like the other worlds and stuff that exist in Cosmere. That could be wrong, but that's my assumption. Is that this is just sort of like contained to here.
Right.
Like I know that there are wider Cosmere things in general. Like, not every Cosmere book is purely just self-contained.
Right.
Like, Cosmere does have, you know, Hoid.
Yeah. Some things that cross over and stuff.
Right, and so it's like I don't know what will and what won't,
Right.
but like my assumption is that this is a here problem, not an everywhere problem. So yeah. Also, because I think this is the first time that we get specifically preservation referred to with pronouns.
Yes.
Pronoun preservation.
Yeah, they're now both being referred to as like he.
Right, and part of me was expecting with the whole ruin preservation opposites thing to go in the direction of preservation being like a woman.
Yeah.
But that did not happen, so I'm kind of curious about that in terms of like if this is a Kabbalah thing and we're going to be getting other sort of pieces of God or whatever, are they all going to be male? Are any of them going to be female or anything like that? Like, what's up with that? So, yeah.
But yeah, so that's that, that epigraph with their bargain and such. By sacrificing most of his consciousness, preservation created Ruin's prison, breaking their deal and trying to keep Ruin from destroying what they had created. This event left their powers again nearly balanced. Ruin imprisoned, only a trace of himself capable of leaking out. Preservation reduced to a mere wisp of what he once was, barely capable of thought and action. These two minds were independent of the raw force of their powers. Actually, I am uncertain how thoughts and personalities came to be attached to the powers in the first place, but I believe they were not there originally, for both powers could be detached from the minds that harnessed them.
Yeah, so like, what is up with that?
Yes.
Which that's a Courage the Cowardly Dog reference. He goes to like a doctor, and the doctor's always just like, "What is up with that?" Yeah, I don't know what to do with that really. You know, it's just like
the power of ruin and preservation are something, and then the minds or like the kind of
personality and consciousness connected to them are somehow like separable from them, and thus presumably they didn't originally start together. You know? And so it's like, what's up with that? What's that mean?
Yeah.
You know, again, it's like I don't know anything. Like my sort of baseless guess is like, I don't know, maybe some people tried to harness this power, and like, you know, if these are pieces of God or something, maybe we like tore God apart.
Yeah.
And you know, then like took over his power until like people became like, you know, their consciousness was put into the power in a sense, and it split it up. But I don't know. Yeah. You know, who's to say?
All right, this is a long one.
Oh boy.
Look at this thing.
Oh yeah, that is a long one.
About a whole page. Let's see if I can do this. I don't know why Preservation decided to use his last bit of life appearing to Elend during his trek back to Fadrix.
Yeah.
From what I understand, Elend didn't learn much from the meeting. By then, Preservation was but a shadow of himself. And that shadow was under immense destructive pressure from Ruin. Do you want to talk?
No, because it's in this epigraph.
Okay. Perhaps Preservation, or the remnants of what he had been, wanted to get Elend alone. Or perhaps he saw Elend kneeling in that field and knew that the Emperor of Men was very close to lying down in the ash, never to rise again. Either way, Preservation did appear, and in so doing, exposed himself to Ruin's attacks. Gone were the days when Preservation could turn away an Inquisitor with the bare gesture. Gone were the days where he could strike a man down to bleed and die. By the time Elend saw the Mist Spirit, Preservation must have been barely coherent. I wonder what Elend would have done had he known that he was in the presence of a dying god, that on that night he had been the last witness of Preservation's passing. If Elend had waited a few more minutes on that ashen field, he would have seen a body, short of stature, black hair, prominent nose, fall from the mists and slump dead onto the ground. As it was, the corpse was left alone to be buried in ash. The world was dying. Its gods had to die with it.
Like, what the fuck? Like, Because that's the thing. What we were just talking about. Like, preservation does... And then just, like, a dude.
Yep. Just a guy falls out.
And they, like, find his body later, seemingly, given the epigraph.
Yeah.
Which, again, like...
if you would have known, then, they'd, like... Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they must have, like, found the body later, if we're assuming, like... Because I've been assuming this is, you know, us in the future.
Yeah.
You know, is this Sazed? Is this, blah, 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 you know, Vin, whose name escaped me for a little bit there.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I'm just like, why is preservation a short man with black hair and a prominent nose?
Yeah, and he just pops out of nowhere, just into existence, and is just in the ash now.
Yeah. Like, which one is it? Samael? Is that the one who had a thing about being short?
Yeah. It is Samael. I remember that because Allie and Gus from the Wheel Takes, lovely Wheel of Time podcast, super great. Obviously, super, like, long podcast, because they're, like, going super in-depth into Wheel of Time, which is massive. But their show podcast is, like, one of my, like, the Wheel of Time show podcast is one of my favorite things. Like, Gus is an actor and, like, has done, like, a lot of stage acting and stuff like that, so his, like, kind of insight is super interesting. And Allie has worked in writing and, like, professional writers' rooms and stuff like that. Also a super interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I got distracted. I was saying something about this that got me distracted, and I don't remember what it was.
They joke something about Samael being short.
All the time. It's, like, their favorite, like...
Yeah, and we won't get into, like, who Samael is or anything, but just I'm like, why is preservation Samael?
I'm dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember Samael's description well enough. I don't remember anyone's physical descriptions well enough. Anytime Sanderson physically describes one of these characters, I'm always like, oh, that's what they look like. and I'm like, oh, Vince got curly hair. Oh, and so does Elend, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I think his hair's, like, blonde and hers is, like, dark hair.
Oh. I knew that she had dark hair. I'm like, she's got, like, black hair, but I was not expecting him to be blonde.
Yeah, I think he's, like, fairly blonde.
He would, I guess. I don't know. In my head, I guess he just had, like, brown hair.
Yeah.
You know? Which, also... So when Alt Shift X is talking about Jon Snow, he was like, yeah, like, Rob's got, like, auburn hair, and Jon's got, like, dark brown hair, and I'm like, oh, I thought he just straight up had black hair, but that's just because I'm thinking of Kit Harington.
Yeah.
But he just has dark brown hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because I knew that he had darker hair than his siblings, because it's like a thing that gets brought up. But I'm like, oh. I was just thinking of Kit Harington, so I was like, black hair. But yeah, character descriptions really just... I forget constantly that Breeze is, like, a heavier guy.
Yeah,
they describe him as being, like, kind of, like, heavier.
Yeah.
Portly or whatever. Yeah. In my head, he's just, like, a thin, fancy man. You know? Yeah. You know, I think of him as being, like, thin and he's got, like, a wine glass and stuff. But no, he's, like, a heavier guy and has a wine glass. Still... He's got in my mind. He's not exactly the Monopoly man, but he's got like a mustache and like a glass of wine and wearing a suit, and it's just like kind of a dandy.
Yeah.
You know, in that way. But yeah. So I'm really curious about that physical description, but it's also so vague.
Yeah.
It's literally just. Short, dark hair, prominent nose. No sense of, like, the length of the hair.
Nope.
Short, but, like, how short?
Yep, short of stature, black hair, prominent nose.
Wearing anything?
It just says he falls out dead.
Because it's just, like...
From nowhere. Just appears from nowhere.
Just appears from nowhere. So I'm like, were you wearing clothes? If so, what kind of clothes? Clothes like the people here wear, or something we've never fucking seen before?
Yeah.
Or are you just nude because you were a god and a body just kind of formed?
Yep.
You know? Do you have like literally just anything? Just like, why do you look like this? Are your Because I know that this is a thing. Are your eyebrows connected to your other hair? I know that's a thing in one of the other books.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Talking about Thalen eyebrows.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, so I'm just like, why? Why are you Samael? Why are you short, dark hair, prominent nose?
Yep.
What does that mean? Not even like pale, dark, medium.
Yeah.
Like no skin tone, no nothing. Thin and emaciated, regular, like nothing. I'm like, what? I don't know. I'm like, I've never wanted more physical description. but when this body just fucking shows up after a god dies, I kind of want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that one.
Yep. All right, we'll go to the next one. I've come to see that each power has 3 aspects. A physical one, which can be seen in the creations made by ruin and preservation. A spiritual one, in the unseen energy that permeates the whole world. And a cognitive one, in the minds who controlled that energy. There is more to this. Much more that I even do not yet comprehend.
Yeah, none of us do. Like, and then say that in quotes because I don't know who this is. Was like, and this is some Cosmere shit that I don't fully understand yet.
Seems like it, yeah. Basically. I love that. There is more to this. Much more. I love that.
There is more, but I can't tell you.
I don't get it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, is this Era 2 shit? Era 3 shit? Wider Cosmere shit? I don't know. It does make me excited for, like, Era 2.
Yeah.
And wider Cosmere stuff. I definitely want more of, like, the wider Sanderson stuff. It
is a grand time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited.
I'm curious to, like, read Elantris.
Yeah.
You know, as, like, the earlier one that people tell you to kind of skip and just go to Mistborn.
Yeah, like, people tell you to skip and go to Mistborn, but definitely come back to it. People definitely...
Because we thought about... Because, like, I thought about us starting with Elantris because it's the first.
Yep.
But everyone says to start with Mistborn, so I'm like, okay, I'll start with Mistborn. But part of me is like, but it's the first one. You should start with Elantris.
Yeah. This is a good, like, completed series, because, like, Elantris, like, it's, like, 1, his first book, and then 2, like... He said for ages, like, he wants to come back and do, like, a sequel for it. So, like, it does have, like, a, like, good ending, but, like, it feels like there could be, like, a lot more.
Yeah. So that just reminded me. I'm going to keep... It's so on my brain, because I was just listening to it.
Yeah.
In Alt-Shift X's, like, he did a Q&A live stream about his Jon Snow video, and I was, like, listening to that. And he was like... George R. R. Martin has literally never finished a series. Like, he's written other things.
Oh, no.
And he's also, like the closest thing he has to one that's finished, he has said that he wants to go back and write more for his, like, because he did, like, a bunch of, like, other, like, sci-fi stuff.
Yeah,
And he was like, George R. R. Martin has literally never finished a series. He's written, like, one-off books that he's like, I want to write more for them.
Yeah.
And then he just gets distracted by something else. And so he's like...
Yeah.
You know. And that was just funny.
That makes sense. Because, like... So, we were listening to Sanderson's lecture the other day where he was talking about, like, Stephen King and how, like, he... Like, when if he, like, were to outline a book, he feels like he's already...
Like, done it,
and then, like, loses creativity.
Right.
I feel like it's a bit that way with, like...
With George R. R. Martin.
George R. R. Martin, which instead of an outline, it's, like, the TV show.
Yeah.
You know? And then, like, he already has a hard time with, like, motivation to, like, finish series and gets, like, you know, like, just... I could see him being, like, you know, like, kind of creative that just, like, you know, wants that new... spark, you know, like, really wants to work on developing a new thing.
Because he just keeps because the thing is that he keeps just growing.
Yeah. And
A Song of Ice and Fire and never, like, bringing it back in.
Yeah.
You know? Because the thing is that, like, Alt Shift X is, like, I don't even think that, like, 2 books is enough.
Yeah.
To bring everything together. I think it's gotta be more books than that.
Yeah.
Because it's like he keeps just... Things just keep growing and adding, and they don't... Because it's like, we're actually at a place in One Piece, and I really am not going to get into any One Piece spoilers.
Yeah.
But, like, it's crazy, especially with, like, the most recent chapter, where it's like, even as we're getting new things, they're new things that are, like, clarifying.
Yeah, and, like, recontextualizing.
Rather than being, like, things keep expanding, it's like, it actually feels like we're heading towards an end.
Yeah.
While with, like, Game of Thrones, it's like...
It just feels like expanding.
Yeah, because it's like... Yeah, there's some stuff that we got to get to eventually, but it's like, we're not even really, like, getting to it. You know? Yeah, but you know, again, I won't get deep into that. I've talked enough about Game of Thrones as it is.
Alright, next one. Once you begin to understand these things, you can see how Ruin was trapped, even though Preservation's mind was gone, expended to create the prison. Though Preservation's consciousness was mostly wiped out, his spirit and body were still in force. And as an opposite force of Ruin, these could still prevent Ruin from destroying, or at least keep him from destroying things too quickly. Mm-hmm. Once his mind was freed from its prison, the destruction accelerated rapidly.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Because my reading was all over the place on that one.
No, you were good. Yeah. It's like Ruin's consciousness was gone, but like it's still just like a force that opposes Ruin's force. Yeah. So even without the consciousness, they're still like holding each other back, and like Ruin's like able to do some stuff.
Yeah, but... just like small pushes, but then there will be an opposite kind of reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, through and though, because it really is just like a 1-letter difference, but it really changes how that like OUGH is pronounced.
Yep, and then you gotta redo the whole word.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, before 59. I do not know what went on in the minds of the Koloss, what memories they retained, what human emotions they truly still knew. I do know that our discovery of the one creature who named himself human was tremendously fortunate. Without his struggle to become human again, we might never have understood how the Koloss, the Inquisitors, and Hemalurgy were linked. Of course, there was another part for him to play. Granted, not a large one, but still important, all things considered.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that? I wonder what that's going to be. I feel like, and this maybe we'll get into it with the chapters, but like it'll maybe have something to do with like Vin's whole being captured...
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, because at the end of the last recording, she'd already been like captured.
Yeah, she'd been captured. Like I think maybe like the whole last section, or like part of it, a lot of it.
Yeah, so it's like my guess is that he'll have something to do with that, unless what his part has already like happened and I just forgot.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe he'll have something to do with that, but especially because like there's a whole thing about like when like at one point when these chapters are talking about like controlling Koloss and like Vin having control and Elend having control and stuff, so like I wonder if that'll somehow be involved, because it's like, oh, they can't communicate like through the Koloss.
Yeah, because they like Vin kind of tries, but
because like can't get the Koloss to like say specific things. To be like, go over here and talk and say this, but like, you know, maybe that's something, but I don't know. Yeah. Just my thoughts right now.
All right, another long one.
Mm-hmm.
The prison Preservation created for Ruin was not created out of Preservation's power, though it was of Preservation. Rather, Preservation sacrificed his consciousness, one could say his mind, to fabricate the prison. He left a shadow of himself, but Ruin, once escaped, began to suffocate and isolate the small vestige of his rival. I wonder if Ruin ever thought it strange that Preservation had cut himself off from his own power, relinquishing it and leaving it in the world to be gathered and used by humankind. In Preservation's gambit, I see nobility, cleverness, and desperation. He knew that he could not defeat Ruin. He had given too much of himself, and beyond that, he was the embodiment of stasis and stability. He could not destroy, not even to protect. It was against his nature, hence the prison. Humankind, however, had been created by both ruin and preservation, with a hint of preservation's own soul to give them sapience and honor. In order for the world to survive, preservation knew he had to depend on his creations, to give them his trust. I wonder what he thought when those creations repeatedly failed him.
Yeah, that one I don't know. Like, yeah, what was preservation's gambit exactly?
Yeah.
It's like giving power over to the humans, but like how and what way exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I fully understand. Yeah, and also it's like it was of preservation, but not made what?
It was not created out of preservation's power, though it was of preservation.
Yeah, because it was made,
and it was his mind that made the prison.
Right. So, right, because there's three aspects.
Right.
Wow. Each piece of God has its own holy trinity. The power, the spirit, and the body.
Right.
in the sort of the physical incarnation. Yeah. Interesting. See, here's the thing. Sanderson in his lecture was like, should have been the third day. When instead of like look for me on the fifth day, and it's like it should have been the third day, and I'm like, no, fuck you. It's not any better for it to have been the third day than the fifth day.
With Lord of the Rings, I get it.
Yeah.
With most things, it's like, you know, like whatever. But Lord of the Rings is so, like, especially with Gandalf, he's so Jesus-y.
Yeah.
And stuff, like...
because, you know...
I think he's right there. Like, I think it would have worked with the 3 days. But that's just, like, that's, you know... I'm also a bit of a religious nerd, you know?
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's just, like, I don't know. He's, like... I don't know. You don't gotta be a religious nerd to be like, it's 3 days and then came back. Yeah. Hey, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely cliche. It's a little...
Yeah, you know.
It's definitely on the nose, you know?
Right, and that's the thing. It's just like, it's on the nose, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be even more on the nose. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I think because it's so on the nose, it's like, gosh.
Yeah.
The fifth day, it's like, it sounds a little off.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like Tolkien was
not
like
it's
trying to...
actually an issue, you know, like it's not a problem with the movie in any way, you know.
Right, yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like Tolkien's like he was like trying to create like a new British like mythology and stuff, and it is very sort of like Christian based in a lot of ways.
One Piece.
Yeah, that was my alarm saying that it's trash day.
Yeah.
And then we need to take the trash out to the curb, which I thought about doing earlier whenever I like cleaned some stuff out of the fridge. And, But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, like his new English mythology, and it is sort of like there's like Christian influence in it and whatnot. Like when you get into like his deep mythology shit.
Yeah.
I think there is like one creator god that like created the whole Tolkien shit. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It doesn't need to be more.
No. It's I definitely get that.
Yeah. But that's just my own personal like, nah, fuck you. Just because it makes it more Christian doesn't make it, you know.
Yeah.
But it is already being very Christian-y, so it's like I get it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But anyway. The next one.
Okay. I don't wonder that we focused far too much on the mists during those days, but from what I now know of sunlight and plant development, I realize that our crops weren't in as much danger from misty days as we feared. We might well have been able to find plants to eat that did not need as much light to survive. True, the mists did also cause some deaths in those who went out in them, but the number killed was not a large enough percentage of the population to be a threat to our survival as a species. The ash, that was our real problem. The smoke filling the atmosphere, the black flakes covering up everything beneath, the eruptions of the volcanic ash mounts, those were what would kill the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, because, like, I don't know. Okay, because, like, the mists have been such a thing, and they've always been very focused on the mists, and they're like, the mist was the deepness, and it's like... And so, like, at this point, I'm almost like, was it?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit, you know, unsure now.
Yeah.
Like, well, like the deepness was the mist, and it was going. But also, we know that we were being kind of manipulated by Ruin for a while.
Like, was the deepness even?
Yeah.
Like, what was a threat? You know, like.
Right, like.
Was the deepness just a Ruin, or was it, you know, the mist, or whatever, you know, like...
Right, and also it's like, why are the mists killing people and stuff? It's...
Yeah.
I don't know.
And, like, people getting sick and all that. And...
Right, which, like, yeah, because, like, in the next section, the Sanderlanche is gonna fully get me.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and so, like, I'll get, like, answers and stuff, at least for... Because, like, I'm expecting not to get complete answers on literally everything, because the epigraphs have already been like, there's some stuff we don't know.
Yeah. It'll be fairly satisfying, though.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like,
I expect as much, but, you know, I'm just like, I wonder what is going to be, like, mysterious, and what's going to be, like, for sure concrete we know.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's also, like, drawing on the mist for power.
Yeah.
As, like, a thing, and, like, preservation, like, shows up as, like, the mist spirit. So it's, like, I don't know.
Alright, next one. I suspect that Elendi, the man Rashek killed, was himself a misting, a seeker. Allomancy, however, was a different thing in those days, and much more rare. The Allomancers alive in our days are the descendants of the men who ate those few beads of preservation's power. They formed the foundation of the nobility, and were the first to name Rashek emperor. The power in those few beads was so concentrated that it could last through 10 centuries of breeding and inheritance.
Yeah. Because that's interesting. And also, I just, like, remembered something from what we read. That I'm like, oh, right. That whole revelation that I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? How does that work?
Got you.
So we'll have to get to that.
Maybe in one of the epigraphs.
Maybe.
Maybe not, but yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Right towards the end, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm like, Allomancy existed.
Yep.
He was probably a seeker because he was hearing the pulses from the well.
Right.
And that's, like, a thing. And it was like, how is he doing that? And it's like, people didn't know about Allomancy back in the day. There's no, like, reference to it. But we also know that Ruin can, like, change shit.
Right.
So it's like...
And it's also been a long time, and the Lord Ruler was actively
like suppressing certain information.
We don't know a lot of information.
Yeah, because it's like he had this book, the logbook.
Yeah.
The logbook was a written book. It was not carved in metal.
Right.
Which we know means that it can be
changed.
Be changed. Like, yeah. But also there's part of me that's like, would Ruin have changed it, like, to make it more obviously Rashek? But maybe that wouldn't have been, like, helpful for Ruin in terms of, like... Because, like, Ruin wants him to be able to, like, defeat the Lord Ruler.
Right.
In order for him to be able to, like, get free.
Right.
Because Rashek's not going to free him.
Yeah, because Rashek knows.
Yeah, Rashek knows, so, like, Lord Ruler's not going to free him. So it's, like, wants people to overthrow the Lord Ruler so that you can... These people who don't know, which they don't know because the Lord Ruler was suppressing this information.
Yep.
So it's like he was his own undoing.
Yep.
In the end, like even as like Ruin like pushed to like help them get in the right direction, Ruin can only do so much, and like a lot of it is just like his own...
Yep, his own, like, pride and, you know...
Mm-hmm. And it's like he was being, like, whispered to by Ruin and making him go crazy and shit, but, like, he was still, like, a piece of shit.
Yeah, oh, yeah. He also knew that was happening and, like, was...
Like, actively trying to, like, work against it and stuff. It's interesting
kind of
stuff.
gave into that paranoia and didn't trust anyone around him because like we see kind of whispering into Vin's ears that paranoia, that don't trust anyone kind of mentality.
Right. Yeah. And because I think in like the slab, it's like it's hard to tell the difference between the whispering and his own sort of like thoughts and stuff.
Yeah.
But he was already a very sort of like you know, selfish and kind of like, you know, the whole thing.
That's why he was chosen.
Right, and like the church being more about like, you know, less about like actual faith and more about like just like subservience to him and like running things. And Yeah, because also we know that, like, humans have more of preservation than ruin.
Yeah. That's the sapience comes from that little extra bit of preservation.
But it's also, like, allomancy is power of preservation. Or, like, comes from, like, preservation.
Yeah.
Because, like, the beads and whatnot.
Yeah, at least how it is nowadays. Because in this, like, in that previous epigraph, it was saying, like, it was...
Like,
it was
different
prior.
Yeah.
But at least, like, those, like original Mistborn, like, came about from those beads of preservation's power.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what do you mean by different? Different how? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't have enough information.
All right, next one. Ruin tried many times to get spikes into other members of the crew, though some of what happened makes it seem that it was easy for him to gain control of people. It in fact was not. Inserting a spike in precisely the right place at the right time was incredibly difficult, even for as subtle a creature as Ruin. For instance, he tried very hard to spike both Elend and Yeoman. Elend managed to avoid it each time, as he did on the field outside the small town that contained the next-to-last storage cache. Ruin did manage to get a spike into Yeoman once. Yeoman, however, removed the spike before Ruin got a firm grip on him. It was much easier for Ruin to get a hold on people who were passionate and impulsive than it was for him to hold on to people who were logical and prone to working through their actions in their minds.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeoman's too... like, actually, like, thinking through things.
Yeah.
He's too much of a thinker. He's not just, like, letting his emotions take over. And so, like, you know, Ruin's kind of like pushing and prodding. He's like,
that's a bit, you know,
like... something's off about this.
Thinks about it a bit too much.
So, you know, like, when I really think about it, that doesn't make sense. That's not, you know. And that's interesting. Yeah, because also, like, Rashik had... some of his, like, metal bands were, like, pierced. Into him.
Yeah.
So he was, like, I don't, like, because he was intentionally doing research into hemalurgy.
Yeah.
For the purpose of, like, the Steel Inquisitors and whatnot. So I feel like, and, like, Ruin's, like, whispering to him, it probably in part because
he has a bunch of metal piercing him.
Yeah, and that, I wonder if that gave him anything.
Yeah.
You know? Like... because getting allomantic spikes does...
I think it depends on the spot. And it'd have to be a hemalurgic spike.
Right.
I'm not certain if you can turn, like, a metal mind into a hemalurgic spike.
Yeah.
Because it already has, like...
Yeah,
like you've already stored your own power in it.
Right. See, it's unclear, because, like, we haven't seen how the two would necessarily interact, because we know that feruchemy and...
allomancy.
Yes. Oh, God, my brain isn't working. That feruchemy and allomancy can work together, because the thing that made him able to do his shit was this mix of feruchemy and allomancy. But he had, like, the thing, like, physically, like, in his arm. Yeah. And Vin's
all, like... whole, like, it was hard to pull it out, like...
Yeah, because Vin's like, clever, so that, like, allomancy get... But I'm like, but what if there was, like, a hemalurgic purpose to it as well?
Yeah.
Like, maybe not,
yeah, it'd have to be, like, the placement and all that.
Yeah, it'd have to be, like, properly placed, and also he's, like... There's a whole thing of, like, by storing... Because the way they describe it was, like, by storing youth in the metal and then burning it, it's like almost making a new allomantic metal.
Right.
So it's like, could storing something into a hemalurgic spike, like, also produce some sort of, like, new interesting combination of effects?
Yeah.
In the same sort of a way. That would also mean that he would have had to have, like, killed someone with it, and also...
Right.
So it's like, probably not. It probably didn't have anything like that, but just now that we have hemalurgy and putting metal into yourself is like...
it's just something...
It's like suddenly that bit, it's like, oh, maybe that could have been related somehow, but probably not, but just something to think about.
Yeah. Alright, next one.
That had something to do with, like, when she pulled on the mist...
Mm-hmm.
Was she getting stabbed at all?
I believe she was getting, like, pushed up against, like, the...
Yeah,
like, wall
right.
by her. Like, I think maybe the metal's in her stomach.
Yes, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then I think that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Because also that wouldn't have made any sense. Because like specifically when it happens to like Spook, it has to be like he got like stabbed through the other guy, and that's what made it actually be hemallergic. That wouldn't have made any sense if she was just getting stabbed.
Right.
But she did have her earring in, which earring theory.
Yeah.
No one liked earring theory apparently. People didn't care about earring theory.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I liked the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll title this one something with Sanderlanche in it, and then it'll get like a dislike on it.
Yeah.
Because the only ever time we got a dislike on a video was the Caught in the Sanderlanche video.
That's funny.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just like, why? It's the only dislike we've ever gotten, which is funny. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one more. I don't know if you read this one or not.
I did. Because I always read
the next one.
Yeah.
One might notice that Ruin did not send his inquisitors to Fadrix until after Yeoman had apparently confirmed that the Atium was there in the city.
Right.
Why not send them as soon as the final cache was located? Where were his minions in all of this? One must realize that Ruin considered all people his minions, particularly those whom he could manipulate directly. He didn't send an inquisitor because they were busy doing other tasks. Instead, he sent someone who, in his mind, was the exact same thing as an inquisitor. He tried to spike Yeoman and failed, and by that time, Elend's army had arrived, so he used a different pawn to investigate the cache for him and discover if the Atium really was there or not.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't commit too many resources to the city at first, fearing a deception from the Lord Ruler. I still wonder, as Ruin did, if the caches were in part intended for just that purpose, to distract him and keep him occupied.
Yeah. That's interesting, because like, these epigraphs are very interesting, especially to, like, because when we first started doing the whole reading all the epigraphs in order thing,
Yeah.
it was, like, very much like, oh, for, like, the first and second book, because they're, like, this, like, extant, like, text.
Yep.
It's interesting to sort of get them in order like that, although the first book's epigraphs aren't, like, in order.
Yeah, they're a bit,
So it's sort of, like, scattered around, but the second one, it's, like, it is fully just straight up in order,
Yeah,
and so it's super interesting. And then this one, it's, like, it'll have information that's, like, much more sort of, like, directly relevant to the chapters.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
And just big, like, some big kind of, like, lore, just some big drops.
Yeah, like, fucking... Just a guy, the body, it appears. Why?
I love it. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm glad. So that's the epigraphs.
Yep. An hour in and we haven't started a single chapter.
No, but it's fine.
We're having a good time.
We are having a good time, and hopefully you're having a good time at home as well.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess it's time to go into the chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
Chapter 53.
Yeah. So we start out with Spook.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking to Beldre after she like kind of gave herself up or whatever. And all that.
Is because like I remember them having like some sort of conversation.
Yeah. Mainly she like doesn't want him to kill her brother is like kind of the basis of it. That's kind of why she came to them in the first place. Is like
right. Yeah. No. Oh man. Because they have a conversation.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, they're kind of like, this is a nice little conversation for them.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of the specifics, but I just remember being like, they're having a little romantic something. It kind of feels.
Yeah.
Because we had just pretty recently watched that ContraPoints video.
Yeah.
About like Twilight.
Right.
And she's like talking about like, why do women have these fantasies and write these books about like bad boys and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just like...
about Spook and Beldre.
Yeah, where it's like, she's kind of kidnapped by him, but he's like...
Right.
it's like he's like sympathetic and they have this conversation, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
she's having her
like
little...
they're against her will, kind of, because then we get more later on as to like what's going on with Beldre, which we'll get to.
Right, and I'm like, because I'm maybe getting like this conversation, a future conversation.
No, this is the conversation you were thinking.
Yeah.
But just like later in the whole conversation with
right,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm just like, for some reason in my head, I'm like, they're having their little like romance novel.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's like, Beldre, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I considered kidnapping you from those gardens, but decided against it. However, with you showing up here alone, it was too good an opportunity.
Yeah.
She's like, I understand. It's my own fault. My brother says I'm too trusting.
Mm-hmm. She's just too trusting, and she's too good and pure for this world. And he's a big old bad boy, but he's got a heart of gold. I'm just like, I don't know. Because Spook's going through his edgy, mysterious phase. He gets to be the kind of like edgy bad boy of their little romance novel thing. But also we've known Spook since book 1, so he's just fucking Spook.
So we're just like, what are you doing, my little boy?
Yeah, and so I just remember like listening to this. I'm like, this is a romance novel where, like, Spook is, like, it's, like, the dangerous revolutionary, and, like, she's been taken captive, but, like, she talks with him, and he's a good guy, and, but...
Yeah, then she's, like, kind of drawing parallels between her brother, like, Quellion, and, like, how he's, like, or at least how he started out, and how she sees, like, him being...
Right. How Spook is being.
Yeah. And then he's also comparing himself a lot to Kelsier.
Right.
Especially because Kelsier is supposedly talking to him.
Yep.
All throughout this.
Yep, which is, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also just, like, a little bit here where he, like, is kind of thinking, like, he wants, like, to figure out what to say to Beldre, just, like, about the whole situation. And he's like, Spook sat frustrated with himself. Kelsier, tell me what to say, he thought. Yet God remained silent. The survivor didn't seem to have much advice about things that didn't relate to securing the city.
Yeah. Ruin's like, this isn't...
Yeah, this is not related.
It's like, I don't give a shit about this.
Fucking your romance? Why the fuck do I care?
It's like, what do I say to this girl? And Ruin's just like... So what the fuck you want me to do? This is not my forte.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also just a little interesting bit because, like, she was, like, kind of former nobility before she was found out. She, like, grew up in nobility.
Right.
So she talks a little bit...
Right. Yes. Yeah. I don't remember exactly all the specifics, but, like, yes.
And she goes, I believed in him, Your brother? No, the Lord Ruler. I was a good little noblewoman. I always gave my payments to the obligators, even paying extra and calling them in to witness the smallest things.
Yep.
I also paid them to tutor me in the history of the Empire. I thought everything was perfect, so neat, so peaceful. And then they tried to kill me. Turns out I'm half Ska, and kind of goes on.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting... I really liked that.
Yeah.
It's like she was so in it.
Yep.
But it's like, it's an interesting perspective to have of just being like, the system was working perfectly for her until suddenly it wasn't.
Yep.
And, until suddenly she finds herself on the wrong side of it, and suddenly all the, like...
Everything shifts.
Yep, everything shifts, and that's such an interesting perspective, because, like, Vin's always been on the streets, you know? And, like, Kelsier... And, like, we've heard a little bit, but, like, Kelsier wasn't, like, blindsided by it.
Right, no, he kind of, like, chose his Ska half.
Right, and like... and then fucking... Breeze is just fully a noble. Is just a noble, and not Ska at all.
Love him.
Which is great. I forget about that sometimes, but it's just, like... I love it because it's like Kelsier's like, I never work with like
never work with nobility. Like can't believe like
and then Breeze is just over there
like sure.
It's like,
never work with nobility.
Yeah, never work with nobility. And then also because he's also because like when it's like, oh yeah, I've got this like noble that I'm working with fucking
Renew.
Yeah, Lord Renew, and it's like, there's no fucking way. And then Bree's like, openly a noble? No fucking way.
Do you smell fire?
Yeah, I smell some sort of burning smell. It was not fire.
It was just, well, it was campfire or something else. It was fire outside.
Yeah, it's outside. We have the window slightly cracked, and it was coming from outside. But yeah, no, we're talking about Breeze being a noble and working with Renew, and it's like, openly working with a noble? Never.
Yeah,
Working with me, who's secretly a noble? Absolutely. Hello, honey.
Yeah.
Hello.
And so then also in this conversation, there's kind of like more comparison of like Spook and Quellion and stuff of like Spook being like, it's for the greater good, and you know, like all that kind of stuff. And then him kind of going into his insecurity with Kelsier and the crew.
Right,
and,
yeah.
You know, like Kelsier handpicked the others. Ham, Breeze, Sazed, and Vin. He chose my uncle too, and by doing so, he got me as a bonus. I was never really a part of it all. I was more like an observer. They posted me on watch and things like that. I sat in on the planning sessions, but everyone just treated me as an errand boy.
Right. Yeah, and it is interesting, because it's like back in the day, I remember being like, and what's Spook gonna do?
Yeah.
Like Spook's here, we're always mentioning Spook.
Yeah.
So, like, he's obviously a part of this, but I'm like, what role is he gonna, like, have in the end? And now he's actually, like, really getting to, like, have a big part of things.
Yeah, and there's, like, some conversation of, like, Sazed kind of being like, oh, like, he should kind of be in charge, and, kind of...
Yeah, because Sazed does not want to be in charge right now.
No.
And
he doesn't really like being in charge at the best of times, and so...
And now is not the best of times, especially for Sazed.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like they told like Beldre why they came to the town and all to that to get the cash and all of that.
Yeah, because they didn't like come to assassinate him or anything.
Yeah. I also liked this line, kind of talking about his current mission. I'm still just a bystander in all of this. Vin and Elend, they're the ones who really know what's going on. To them, I'm just the guy they could spare to spend months spying in Urto while they did the important work in the south. It's just an interesting little...
Yeah, because like, she keeps licking me. Yeah, because... It's like, no, like this is still, like, important.
Yeah.
And they still think of Spook as, like, important and whatnot. But I also wonder, like, we are in Orto and we're, like, focusing on stuff over here. So, like, I do wonder if something's going to be, like, really important over here in regards to all the big important plot shit.
Yeah.
You know? Spook was the hero of ages the whole time. That's what it was. He's the one at the beginning who's like, unfortunately, I'm the hero of ages. That's what makes the most sense, I'm sure of it. Yeah,
and then he also talks about like how he had a crush on Vin and gave her a handkerchief, and she didn't know what it was at first, and then when she did, she was just like, no, not interested, you know.
And he was like, yeah, I figured. Yeah, cause and she's like, you're like a romantic.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's what nobles do if they're, you know, romantics or whatever. Because he was like, yeah, hanky, you know, like nobles do. And I know that he ends up promising to try not to kill Quellion.
Yep.
She's like, promise you won't kill him. I was like, well, I promise that I'll try. But like, if it has to be that, then it has to be that. But I'll try to do something else instead. I'm over here trying to brush a mat out of her leg while we're doing the podcast. But she's just, you know, she's all curled up right here.
Yeah.
And Holly gets mats so easily.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And so we kind of finish up with that scene, and then we're checking on getting the water and all of that type of stuff set up.
Right.
And then Spook kind of is meeting with a lot of people, kind of giving not really a speech. He's just going around talking to people and stuff.
Yeah.
like the all the people's like hardships and stuff like that, and trying to hear everyone out.
Because he like goes out and he like drinks a whole bunch. With people, and he can't give like rousing speeches in the same way, but he like goes and he like listens to people, and like it's like, yeah, we're gonna get through it together. And all that jazz. I kind of remember that now.
Yeah, and then he kind of like starts to really feel like Kelsier kind of to himself and all of that. In his own way.
Don't chew your foot, ma'am. Anything
but
else?
Yeah, the last thing was just there was one more little line from Kelsier into Spook's head, which was, "They love you, you deserve it," which is just, you know,
they love you, you deserve it.
Which is sad because like he does deserve like a little bit of a pick me up. Like he has been, you know, like it sucks that it's from this, you know.
Yes, it's. I mean, it's the way these things go. You know, it's like Spook. And here, you know, back in the day we had Breeze as an incel. Spook could have gotten caught up in the alt-right pipeline, you know? Disaffected young man who wants to be more than he is, and, you know, a group is like, hey, you could go out and be the new Messiah. All you gotta do is a mass shooting. Right? So, yeah, Spook's the kind of young man who could get
very, very fanatical.
Who could get fanatical and who could get caught up in you know the pipeline, as it were.
But yeah, that's probably 53.
That's it for 53. Chapter 54.
So 54, we're with Vin. And she's being taken to Yeoman and stuff, and so she's trying to like give them what they expect, so she like attacks when she feels like that they are expecting her to attack and stuff.
Right. Because like the guards are coming and checking on her and stuff. Right. And she doesn't have her medals. They let her like sleep them out of her system. Right. And she like unscrews something or something. She like gets a little.
She puts like grease on her handcuffs. Like while they're distracted, she uses the attack that they expect to put like open a thing of grease and put it on her.
Right, but she also like gets something from somewhere else. Like she like unscrews like a chair leg or something, and she doesn't have any she has like because like there's a bunch of like silver.
Yeah, she's, like, chained in silver to, like, a bench.
Because there's, like, a bunch of stuff that's, like, not any sort of allomantic shit.
Yeah.
And she gets, like, because I think because, like, I thought she got, like, a little bit of metal or something and, like, threw it at them and they, like, are like, oh, shit. Even though she doesn't have any metal, so, like, oh, no, she's, like, doing something. But I'm maybe misremembering. She, like, throw something. But this might be, like, later, not, like, right now. Because it's, like, later they're, like, and they took away her whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can just, like, go through what you have, like, highlight and stuff, and maybe it'll come up, like, along the way. Because I know she has, like, a lot of, like, they put, like, a lot of silver stuff in there because it's, like, a useless allomantic metal, and it's, like, this is a lot of silver.
Yeah. But they go through a bunch of, like, possibilities of what she could do. Like, a single flake of steel, and you could slaughter my guards, and, you know, Peter, you could do all this, or whatever.
Yeah, I might be thinking of something later. I don't know.
Yeah. And so then they give her water, and he goes, collected from rain, then strained and purified. You will find no trace metals in it to burn. I specifically ordered it kept in wooden containers only.
Yeah, like really, like no wonder this guy couldn't get fucking, like he got spiked, but like he's too meticulous.
And then she's manacled with silver, which is non-allomantic. Silver, useless, unburnable silver. Like lead, it was one of the metals that provided no allomantic powers at all.
Yeah, except for when that lead's mixed in with fucking to make pewter.
Yeah, and then she's given her earring back. It's made of bronze with some silver plating, and like silver's kind of like come off of it.
Off of what?
Off of her earring. Her earring. They, like, give back to her.
Yeah, because it's, like, bronze, you said?
Yeah, it's bronze with silver plating.
But the silver's come off of it. Interesting. So she does have a source of bronze, but that one's not useful, sort of, offensively.
It's
not. It doesn't really have any like offensive capability, so there's not really any like harm in it.
Yeah.
But also, it's gonna like the earring. The earring's gonna be important somehow.
Yeah. Vin eyed the earring. Her fingers itched to grab it, if only to feel the metal between her fingers. If she'd had steel, she could have pushed on the earring, using it as a weapon. Kelsier had once told her to keep wearing it for that simple reason. Yet it had been given to her by her mother, a woman Vin had never known, a woman who had tried to kill her.
Mm-hmm. And then, because Yeoman gives her the earring back, right?
Yeah, he gives it to her back.
And then she puts the earring in, and then Ruin starts talking to her again.
Yeah, he starts talking this next page. You should kill him, all of them.
Yeah, it's once she puts the earring back in that Ruin starts talking to her again.
Yep.
It's important.
It is. It seems like it.
Mm-hmm. Because they keep Chekhov's earring.
Yeah.
I already want the last episode of this to be something along the lines of.
She couldn't attack, for the earring had no hidden secret.
Right.
The truth was, she simply wanted it because it felt comfortable in her ear. She was accustomed to wearing it.
I kind of want the last episode of this to be attack and dethrone God in parentheses for real this time. Assuming that is what happens with like Ruin. But I don't know. I'm like I can't do some sort of. I mean, I could call this one Chekhov's earring, but it's just like it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know.
Yeah. So that little aside to the earring, she gets her earring back and starts hearing Ruin, and then there's the reason why she's like called out, like she's brought out here to begin with, is Elend sent a messenger to make sure that Vin is alive, and well, that's
and
kind of
it's
this whole scene.
Go see her, and
how do we know this isn't a Khandra in disguise? And so they go through, ask her a question
that's like not so big that a Khandra would like know to ask for it, but something personal. It's like, what'd you eat for breakfast?
What did you have for dinner the night before you went to the party inside the city?
Yeah.
Fresh eggs I bought in the city during one of my spying trips.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting.
But yeah.
Like, why'd you buy those eggs? Just steal them. You're out here spying. Being sneaky. Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's just like this little bit where she's like, "What do you expect to like get from me that like you have me captured or whatever?" She's like, "Elend, like, if he's got to leave me, he'll like leave me here.
Right?
You got to know,
Mm-hmm.
And so then the reason that he like captured her and wanted her so much,
right? Because he's going through a whole like
for
theological thing. Yes,
It's not actually because of the whole invasion and siege and all of that. It's for kind of religious reasons.
Yeah, because she killed the Lord Ruler, but also he's like, you didn't actually kill the Lord Ruler. The
he
Lord
can't
Ruler
die.
Can't die. He can't be dead. So like, what'd you do? What's the deal?
Which is interesting because like she's there to be executed for the murder of the Lord Ruler, but supposedly he's not dead, or maybe this is his plan all along. So like yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I do remember like listening to this and like finding this very interesting. Yeah. Because it's like to actually because it was always like, oh, the Church of the Lord Ruler is like this thing that existed. Like the Steel Ministry and whatnot. But, like, we only saw so much of the actual, like, religious aspect of it. And because...
And we only saw kind of outsiders to like, the actual religion.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, like, the Lord Ruler's just, like, there.
Yeah.
He's just a guy who's, like, there and who you can see. Which is part of why he believes in him so strongly.
Yeah.
Because none of these other gods were just, like, here on Earth doing shit.
Yeah.
My god was... And now what? I'm just supposed to believe in a god that's not there? And it's like, well, you already are, my dude.
Yeah.
Like, how can these people believe in Kelsier? He was just a guy. And
and he's dead. And then Vin's like, but your dude's dead.
The Lord
Ruler's like, well, he's not actually dead though.
No, he's not actually dead though. He's just, Yeah. This is a test or something,
Yeah.
The Lord Ruler works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. We come back to this conversation in a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want, we can go find the rest of it and talk about it with this.
We don't have to. We can just move on to the next chapter.
Okay, there's one more little thing at the end of this bit with Yeoman. Is more of, Ruin talking, and Vin's kind of trying to figure out Ruin's limits and, like, what's going on.
Like, and what does, like, Ruin, like, want?
Right, so, like, here it's like, kill him, you could do it, take a weapon from one of those soldiers, then use it on Yeoman. Vin frowned. Ruin still used Reen's voice. It was familiar, something that had always seemed a part of her. Discovering it belonged to that thing, this was a different part than I thought it was, but I do like this bit.
Yeah.
Discovering it belonged to that thing, it was like finding out that her reflection really belonged to someone else, and that she had never truly seen herself. She ignored the voice. She wasn't sure why Ruin would want her to try killing Yeoman, and we kind of, from the epigraphs, it seems that he was not really...
Yeah, wasn't able to, like, spike Yeoman and take Yeoman over.
Yeah, so Yeoman wasn't really doing what Ruin wanted, so it's better to just get rid of him.
Just get rid of him, just go ahead and kill him. Yeah, because she's like, why? Like, Ruin just wants me to, like... Because she, I think later, has, like, a conversation with Ruin about this, where it's like, Yeoman's on your side. And it's like, anyone who's killing is on my side.
Yep. Yeah. I think, like, kind of at the end, we come back to...
Yeah, we come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holly just really wants to hang out with us.
She's being a little menace today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the end of chapter 54 then.
Alrighty. Chapter 55.
Chapter 55, we are with Elend trudging back through the ash after his...
Yes, and this is where we get the whole thing.
Right. Yes.
This is where he has his meeting with God.
Yep. Yeah, so first he's kind of, like, thinking, and he's, like, walking back on his own because he's, like, he's really depressed and, like, confused. He's not sure, like, what to do. Mm-hmm,
because he's like, I went out and got all these call-offs, like, what am I even gonna...
Like, the ash is so bad, it's, like, practically up to my, like, waist sometimes. Like, what am I even doing? Like, am I supposed to attack? Like, what's going on?
Like, it all just feels very hopeless.
Yeah. And, like, he kind of just, like, needed time to think and stuff, so he is, like, walking back. Mm-hmm. And also worried about Vin, and thinking about how he's normally vulnerable, and, like, now it's kind of her, and feeling that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, like, Ellen's like, we need help, and then, like, the mists...
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, the mists swirled, and
there's a figure.
Yeah, so then he basically, like, gives up. And there in the ash, he finally just gave up. Someone knelt down beside him. And it's the mist creature, it seems.
The mist spirit is there, the one that tried to kill him that one time to get Vin to to use the power.
It wasn't really composed of mist, rather it was outlined in mist. Random shifting suggested its figure, which was roughly that of a man. Elend had seen this creature twice before. The first time it appeared to him in the wilderness of the Northern Dominance. The second time it had stabbed him in the gut, leaving him to bleed to death.
He's like, what do you want?
Yeah, he's like, what do you want of me? And the mist spirit just points southeast. So
that's what you did last time, you just pointed.
Yeah, and it just is kind of standing quietly. If you want to say something, why not just say it? At least write it. So then the mist spirit starts to write, and it writes, I will kill you, death, death, death. And Ellen's like, And the mist spirit is very disappointed in the words that he seems to have written, and is very sad. And Ellen's like, oh, you didn't mean to write that.
Yep, and it's like, oh yeah, like, text can be changed. When I was like, go slowly, and I'll just see what, like, literally, like, follow the hand motions to see what the letters are, even as, like, the letters get, like, changed and whatnot, which is interesting.
And that doesn't work, because Ruin is right there.
Yeah.
Immediately stopping any pattern from being recognized. Like, like a complex pattern. So he can't spell things out, but he eventually is able to ask yes or no questions, and it waves for yes and nothing for no.
Yeah, and then also has some kind of, like...
Yeah, some, like, maybes.
Some, like, maybes, and there's, like, is that, like, a maybe?
Yeah, so we'll go through some of the questions and stuff.
Elend plays charades with God.
I think that's a good title.
Yeah.
I like that title. Elend plays charades with God. Yes, please. Yes.
I'll write that down. But yes,
That's a favorite title. I really enjoy that one. Yeah, so first he's like, it's here with us now, and is like, a bit nervous.
right.
And so then he's like, you're not as solid as you was before. The creature
Right.
remains still. Is that a no? The creature remains still. It's like, are you weaker than you were before? The thing waved its arms. Yes. Is it because the world is ending? More waving.
Just like,
Yeah.
it's great.
Are you weaker than the other thing? The thing Vin set free. Waving. A lot weaker. It waved.
Yeah.
Though it seemed a bit disconsolate this time. And then he's like, we lack information. I need to learn what I can from this thing. Are you related to the ash? No motion. Are you causing the ash falls? No motion. Is the other thing causing the ash falls? This time it waved.
Right.
Okay. Is it causing the mists to come in the day too? No motion.
Right.
So ruin is not causing the mists to come in the day.
Yeah, it's like the mists are still very unclear to me.
Yeah. Are you causing the mists to come in the day? And then it does a kind of maybe, like, kind of half wave. Is that a maybe or a partially?
Yeah. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. And then it kind of, like, starts to fade. And you pointed southeast. Did you want me to go back to Luthadel? It waved with half enthusiasm again. Do you want me to attack Fadric City? It stood still. Do you not want me to attack Fadric City? It waved vigorously.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Do not attack Fadric City. But
Yeah.
also, preservation doesn't want anything to get destroyed.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So then it's, the mists, they're connected to all this. They're killing my men. It stepped forward, then stood still, somehow looking urgent. You reacted to that. You mean to say they aren't killing my men? It waved. So, it seems that there's something there.
Right. It's like, how are the mists not killing them if it's like you go out in the mists and some of them...
Yeah, and it did say, like, it made an indication that it did have something to do with the mists being different.
Right. But it's not killing them, but yet people are dying anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, ruin somehow killing them when they go out in the mists? And if so, how?
Yeah.
Is there like a third power we don't know about? Ruin, preservation, and mist.
Yeah. And then he asks, can we beat it? Can we survive? Stillness. Then the creature gave a brief wave. Not a vigorous one, but hesitant, uncertain. It evaporated, maintaining that same wave. The mists becoming indistinct.
Yeah.
And leaving no sign that the creature had been there. Until
the
epigraph, like in front of the next chapter, where a corpse drops after Elend walks off.
Yeah.
So preservation died after this conversation.
That's crazy. That's weird. Isn't that strange? It doesn't bode well, but also preservation exists in all of humanity, and so it's like preservation sort of gave itself
like to humanity.
Yeah, preservation did a Jesus.
A Holy Spirit.
Yeah. I just, because it's like, okay, we get like a little information, but it's still just like, it's that thing where I'm like, oh, I should be able to put the pieces together. What is it then? It kind of has something-ish to do with the mist.
Yeah.
But it's not killing people, but people do go out in the mist and die.
Yep.
So why?
Yeah.
What about them causes that?
Yep.
Why is it 16%? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it 16%?
16%.
Yeah. Why? What do?
Yeah. Good question.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the chapter.
Yep. That is 55.
That's 55. Chapter 56.
Yep. We are back with Spook.
Spook.
And he's trying to get Quellion to, like, expose his allomancy in front of everyone to, like, expose that kind of hypocrisy and all of that. So this is kind of getting that all together.
Yeah, this isn't him planning, is it?
No, it's like kind of like just before it happens.
Right, because it was in the previous one when he was talking to her that he had been like planning what to do with Quellion. I was like, I'm going to try and attack him to force him to to do his like coin shot shit.
May actually.
And she's like, don't. It's like, no, I'm not gonna kill him. I'm just gonna like threaten him so that he has to like use his allomancy. And it's like coming up with like a plan and stuff, and they like talk and yeah, cause she's like, I can't understand. And it's like, oh, it's Eastern street slang.
Yeah.
And he actually talks a little bit about how Eastern street slang works, and we didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah, I have it marked in here.
Yeah.
It's in this conversation.
Is it in this conversation?
Yes.
Not the
previous.
Not the previous one? Okay, so that's good. That's good. Yeah. Because I've always been talking about this with, like, the whole... with, the linguistics of it and whatnot.
Yeah. The first thing in this chapter, after kind of, like, thinking about Quellion, is, like, kind of him thinking about, like, himself and Kelsier. Mm-hmm. Like, I really can do this. I always felt such awe for Kelsier's leadership abilities, but it's not as hard as I thought. Or at least that's what he told himself. He tried not to think about the consequences of a failure, tried not to think about the fact that he still held Beldre hostage, mm-hmm. and tried not to think about the fact, tried not to worry about the fact when he awoke some mornings, his tin having burned away during the night, his body felt completely numb, unable to feel anything until he got more. And so Kelsier kept telling him not to worry. That should be enough for him, shouldn't it? And just that little,
getting just like a little bit of doubt about the Kelsier stuff, which he's been pretty like leaning into this whole time. So getting a little bit of that like pulling back again is good.
Yep. So then we get into he's writing on the board and it's written in Eastern street slang, mm-hmm. and so then they talk about it a bit. It's mostly written in Eastern street slang. The dialect you grew up speaking? Spook nodded. The words are different. Wasing? It kind of means was doing. You start sentences with it. Wasing the run of there would mean I was running to that place. Mm-hmm. Wasing the where of the fines, Beldre said, smiling slightly to herself as she read from the board. It sounds like gibberish. Wasing the how of wanting the doings, Spook said, smiling, falling into the full accent. Then he flushed, turning away. Mm-hmm. What? And then he's being all, he's like, I feel so foolish, like all
mm-hmm.
that. And her finding it charming and
mm-hmm.
being like probably the one person in his life that is like appreciated that.
Yes, which I've been wanting, because I talked about that in an earlier episode, where it's just like it had so far been only framed in this way of like, well, Spook just needs to fucking My Fair Lady himself. Yep. He needs to learn how to speak proper so that people can understand him and whatnot.
Yeah, and that was very much coming from, like, the people around him, and then it mm-hmm. got, like, I think very, like, internalized. So we kind of mm-hmm. saw that at the beginning, how he was, like, thinking of it mm-hmm. and stuff. And then here it's, like...
we actually get someone being like, no, it's good,
You shouldn't be ashamed of the accent. I think it's charming. You just mm-hmm. said it was gibberish. But that's the best part, Beldre said. It's gibberish on purpose, right? Spook remembered with fondness how his parents had responded to his adoption of the slang. It had been a type of power, being able to say things that only his friends could understand. Of course, he started speaking in it so much that it had become hard to switch back.
Right, because it's essentially like thieves can't.
Yeah.
It's like it more than like. I mean, it is kind of a dialect because it becomes such a part of how he talks.
Yeah.
But it's more of a cant than a dialect.
Yeah.
It's like, this like specific way of speaking to obfuscate meaning for people who don't know it.
Yeah.
And
it became like, like obviously his parents were not mm-hmm. like good and did not
right.
So like it was a way to rebel against them mm-hmm. and then also against, like the government that, like the Ska were under.
Right. That's like oppressing him and forcing him into this sort of situation where like his family's like, it's a danger to have him around and stuff, and then be like bought by his uncle essentially, It's a way of rebelling, and then he ends up with a rebellion that's like, no, don't talk that way.
Yeah,
which is kind of ironic in a sense, you know.
So then they're kind of just like talking and like planning a little bit, I think.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm gonna go after him and like scare him to get him to like do his coin shot stuff.
Yep, and then she says she wants to write him a letter
Mm-hmm.
and like get him to listen to Spook or whatever, like Beldray does.
Right.
And then Spook is like, yeah, I'll let you write the letter. And he's like, privately thinks, I'm gonna rewrite it and change a few words because I know how codes can happen.
Right, yeah.
So,
codes and ciphers.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's something about that. So I mean, it's like, keep the meaning, but just sort of like change the specific wording and stuff so that, you know, if there's any sort of code or cipher in there, it'd get kind of ruined by that.
Yep. He'd rewrite it on another sheet of paper, changing the line order, and then add a few unimportant words. He'd worked on too many thieving crews to be unaware of ciphers.
Yep. Hidden messages.
But yeah. So then all the guards are missing, and they're like, what's going on? And they like figuring out what's wrong. Because like I think like the riots start like early and stuff, and it's like all of that. So they go and like confront him. I think. No, they just wait. There's like riots happening, so they just kind of like. We're with Sazed. We switched perspective to Sazed.
Yeah. I was looking. I'm like, it looks like we switched to Sazed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, down here. The soldiers were gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It switches to Sazed.
Yeah, because there were like people watching them or whatever, like their base, and then like riots are happening, so they all like leave to go deal with that.
Yeah, so they're like, oh well, that's good. Like we have less like surveillance on us. And stuff like
so that's convenient for us.
Yeah, and he's also like kind of looking at Spook and being like, wow, he's grown a lot. That's like interesting. Like also like he's acting weird. And stuff.
Well, keep yawning, unfortunately.
But yeah, and then there's like kind of more of Sazed like. Kind of like thinking about like religions and all of that, and like kind of what he's doing and how like he kind of like snaps at Spook or whatever a little bit, like basically being like, it's all doomed, like why are we even trying to do anything or whatever, and Spook's like, oh, I don't know, and says that's like, what is wrong with me, like I used to be like the kind of pillar that people could lean on, and now I'm just like snapping at my friends when like they need support and all of that. It's
like when they sort of need me the most, I'm not sort of being there for them.
But that's basically the end of 56 there.
Gotcha. Yeah, because, like, he's talking to Spook, and Spook says something about, like, Tindwall.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, leaders shouldn't doubt themselves, and he's kind of like, it's like, you're right, I do wonder if I'll fail. I guess Tindwall would be annoyed at me, wouldn't she? She didn't think that leaders should doubt themselves, and that gave Sazed pause.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like, he's trying to do, like, something that he thinks that like, Tindwall would, like, approve of, and, like, going through, like, these religions, and trying to sort of, like, disprove them or whatever. But it's like, no, it's like, these people need, like, a leader right now, not necessarily me, but, like, in Spook, and Spook's trying to, like...
Inspire and
all this sort of stuff, and just sort of, like, mentioning Tindwall and having him be like, what am I doing? Why am I, being such a dick right now?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that's 56, you said?
Yeah.
And alrighty. Chapter 57.
Yeah, 57. We are back with Vin. You should kill them. The first line of the chapter.
Yeah.
More Ruin speaking to Vin. And some more of Vin trying to figure out, like, Ruin's, like, limits with, like speaking to her and his presence and stuff like that. So, there was one good thing about Ruin's voice. It tended to warn her when people were nearby. Even if it did always tell her to kill them.
Yeah. which is funny.
And I also love this. It's very Vin. It's a very Vin way to deal with things. A part of her wondered if she had in fact gone mad. After all, she saw and heard things that nobody else could. However, if she were mad, there would be no reliable way for her to realize it. So she decided to simply accept what she heard and move on.
It's like, well, if I am mad, nothing I can do about it.
Like, well, okay.
Yeah, she's very pragmatic in that way.
Yeah, and I love Vin. And then also she is a little bit thankful for the company because she's lonely being captured. So she's like, well, at least I have Ruin to kind of talk to. In truth, she was glad for Ruin's voice on occasion. Other than Ruin, she was alone in the cell.
Yep. Yeah, because Ruin doesn't, like, show up all the time.
Yeah. Plus, each time Ruin spoke, she felt she learned something. For instance, she learned that Ruin could either manifest in person or affect her from a distance. When its actual presence was not with her in the cell, Ruin's words were far more basic and vague. Take Ruin's order to kill the guards. She couldn't follow that suggestion, not from within the cell. It wasn't so much a specific order as it was an attempt to change her inclinations. Again, that reminded her of the way allomancy could exert a general influence over a person's emotions.
Like telling Zane, kill them, kill them, all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, so then she also thinks, like, general influence, which reminds her, like, of the Koloss. And so she kind of tries to follow that avenue for a second to see if she can maybe get a message or something to Elend.
Right.
And it doesn't really work. Like, they can't get anything specific across.
Right. It's too vague.
Yeah. She could order them to take actions like attack or pick someone up, but she never tried something as delicate as ordering one to speak certain words. She tried forming those words in her head and getting them to the Koloss, but all she sensed back was confusion. She'd have to work on that some more.
Yeah, because it kind of makes me think of, like, when she, because she orders Human to, like, show her how, like, new Koloss are made. And that took, like, some difficulty.
Yeah, and it was, like, a whole, like... It was not comfortable or controlled or, you know.
Yep. And she was, like, there physically in person for that. So it's like, maybe if she was, like, there, she could, because, like, when Ruin is right there, he can, like, manifest and give, like, specific commands. You can't force her to do anything because, like, it's not, like, a powerful enough thing.
Yeah.
But he can, like, completely control, like, Marsh.
Yeah.
But Marsh is, like...
enough. Yeah.
Which Marsh still, like, Chekhov's Marsh.
Yep. Yeah, he's been sitting, like, from the beginning. I think we, like, started with him. It's, like, from the beginning he's been sitting there biding his time.
Yeah, I think we did, like, literally start with Marsh. I think that was the first.
Him trying to, like, hide whatever of himself is left away, basically.
Yeah, well, him trying to, like, kill himself and trying to like, pull the spike out and then not being able to. And then he's like, it's like, all right, I'm gonna figure something out.
Yeah.
And he does show up.
Yeah.
But I do like what's gonna happen with Marsh.
Yeah. So then like kind of Ruin is like his presence is more like there, so that he's like talking a bit more directly, and kind of taunting her. And Vin's kind of wondering, like, why are you even taunting me? Like, what?
Why is this happening? Why are you doing this?
Why come taunt me? Does it expect to learn something? And so she's trying to get like some information and stuff, and then we get a bit more look at like how Ruin sees people and like and everything. He goes, why you can I would have thought at very least you would have killed Yeoman. Why are you so concerned with his death? It seems to me that he's on your side. Ruin shook his head. You still don't understand, I see. You're all on my side, Vin. I created you. You're my tools, each and every one of you. Zane, Yeoman, your dear Emperor Venturer. God, I can't speak.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough tonight.
Yeah. And just kind of like...
Right. Yeah, because this is something that I was thinking about earlier, where it's like, all of you who are out here, killing and destroying are on my side, essentially.
I keep trying to explain this process we are engaged in, the end of all things. It is not a fight, but a simple culmination of inevitability. Can a man make a pocket watch that won't eventually wind down?
Yep.
And all of that. Think of me as a caretaker, the one who watches the shop and makes certain that the lights are turned out, that everything is cleaned up once closing time arrives.
I like that.
Yep.
That did endear me to Ruin a little bit. Like because this is the thing, pure preservation isn't necessarily good.
Right.
Because you were talking about how like the Lord Ruler was sort of like of preservation, and he was trying to keep everything the same. For like 1,000 years, everything the same.
That was his whole,
You know, it is fundamentally conservative. Quite, you know, from conserve.
Yep.
And sometimes you need change and you need growth. Things, you know, you need ruin and preservation.
Yes.
And so it's like, all things end eventually.
Yep.
Although, if you were to ask Dr. Manhattan, he would say, nothing ever ends. Nothing ever really ends, Adrian. And then he leaves. And leaves him to consider what he's done. Was it all worth it in the end? Nothing ever ends, Adrian.
Love it.
Yeah, Watchmen's good. Weird, but good.
Yeah.
But yes. Like, do I need to put Watchmen spoilers? I don't know.
Yeah. And, so then, like, during this conversation still, like, you know, like, she's, like, really feeling like he's gloating or whatever. And she's like, I guess you've won then, she said quietly. Won? Don't you understand? There was nothing for me to win, child. Things happen as they must. And she like, kind of, like, thinks over that and is like, no, it's like...
it's like, why would you be doing any of this?
Right, it's like, no, you are gloating. Like, you do feel like you've won something or whatever. And, you know, like, why? It's gloating. That's why Ruin is here, because it wants to make certain someone understands what it has accomplished. There was a feeling of pride and victory in Ruin's eyes. They were human emotions, which Ben could understand. At that moment, Ruin stopped being an it in her mind, and instead became a he. Which
is funny.
Yeah.
Again, from like a gender perspective.
Yeah.
But also it's like, it's sort of this idea that some sort of human influence has like taken control of these powers.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Ruin's also just some short guy with dark hair and a prominent nose.
I mean, we saw Preservation died and had a body.
And
so
had, like,
presumably, like, this kind of bit of thought that Vin goes on where she's like, you know, if he has this bit of humanity, he can be defeated. You know, like, we saw Preservation's body.
Right. So it's like, So I feel like
physical
somehow...
corpse.
So somehow these godlike powers have been sort of corrupted in a way by, like, people taking control of them, you know? And that's sort of why, you know, it's like, oh, they didn't always have this, like, consciousness or whatever. Because if it could be separated from the power, then, like, it probably wasn't there to begin with. And was added later. So I'm like, humans? Somehow a person did this? But... Because also it's like, I don't know. These are humans, but maybe, like, the other humans are, like, different somehow.
Yeah.
With their fucking eyebrows. I don't know. Because I'm like, eyebrows don't do that normally. How?
I love the focus on Thalen eyebrows.
It really sticks out to me.
It's a great like feature. They just have, like, really long eyebrows, so then they just, like, braid it in with the rest of their hair and stuff, because they just have very, very long eyebrows.
Yeah, but, like, people...
And they're, like, a different color, like white eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's not normal. But they're otherwise just normal people, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? Why they eyebrows like that?
Why they eyebrows like that? Stormlight Archive. Why they eyebrows like that?
Yeah, when we start Stormlight,
yeah, having a hard time speaking. I really felt like I was struggling through those epigraphs, and, like, every section that I've read today, I've just felt like, I don't know how any of the words are leaving my mouth.
Yeah, no, when we do the first episode of Stormlight Archives, I should title it why their eyebrows like that.
I think in the first section of Stormlight
Stormlight eyebrows.
Oh my god. I was trying to say, in the first section, I'm pretty sure we do see a Thalen. So they do have those eyebrows.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is great.
Anyway, alright.
Yeah.
God, we're talking about Ruin and all that.
Yeah, so, some other force made them and was like, and now eyebrows.
And now eyebrows. So then, Vin kind of in this bit where she like realizes that Ruin can be defeated.
I'm just still thinking about it because it's not like you can grow them out. You don't get like your eyebrows trimmed, like your beard or whatever. You know.
If you're Thalen, you do.
Yeah, but like why? Why are they like that?
Some people cut them and like use like kind of gels and stuff and like spike them up in different
cool
ways and stuff. And some people braid them into their hair and some people,
but just
leave them long.
But why are they long like that? That's all. I just keep thinking about
There's
it.
also blue people.
Yeah, but see, that's so different. Like the fact that that's like the only thing that I know of that's different about them.
Yeah.
Like physiologically. The eyebrow magic system. And you just think about Sanderson being like, I'm gonna do The Godfather, but they're all mice.
Yeah.
And the magic system is magic cheese. It's like the magic system is magic eyebrows. But I know that that's not it. I mean, I don't know what the magic system for Stormlight is at all.
Yep. No, I haven't. Like, I've actually, like, really stayed away from that. Like,
right.
I have, like, kind of briefly talked, like, Stormlight, just, like, the barest of, like, mentions. Mm-hmm. But, like, I've really stayed away from the magic system completely.
Like, all I know is that, like, there is something called Stormlight.
Yeah.
Because, like,
And you've heard of Spren.
Yes, I've heard of Spren. I know that they're a thing. And that Stormlight is a thing. Yeah. Because there was some sort of joke post that I could never find again. It was like, normal author questions, and then like questions that Sanderson gets. It's like, if so and so did blank and blank, could they generate infinite Stormlight and do blah blah blah?
If Nightblood ate the door, then. Something Stormlight, I don't remember.
Yeah, and like completely eliminate magic on whatever.
Yeah.
And Rafa.
Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of joke post like that, and I'm like, so I know that the Stormlight is something, but I don't know what its deal is.
I don't know that. I don't know if it was a joke post, like the original question. Like I think that was an actual question.
Like an actual question
that someone asked him.
The post is a joke, whether or not that was a real question or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
In this bit here, kind of as Vin's discovering like. Okay, like, maybe he's defeatable and has a limit and stuff like that. And also is humanish. Also is, like, asks, what did you do to him? Your opposite, the one who once stopped you from destroying the world. Realizes there was... Because, like, this is the first Vin has realized of preservation.
Yeah.
We read about it in the Epigraphs. This is the first knowledge that Vin has that there's another force besides Ruin acting in the world, or at least was acting in the world. Yeah, because it's like I do sort of like forget that sometimes, because also it's like the Khandra are like Ruin and preservation, and they know about that, but like... So we've gotten it from them.
But all that's been over in Khandra land.
Yeah, either there or in the Epigraphs, like, Vin and, like, Elend don't know. Like, Elend doesn't know who he was speaking to. He just calls it the Mist Spirit.
And also, Vince, like, there's some sort of malicious something out there. Yeah. Something was freed from the well, and, like... some sort of malicious something, and so knew about Ruin but not preservation. Yeah.
And so then in this bit here realizes about preservation and finds out his name for the first time. Here's Ruin was silent for a long moment, then he smiled. Then he smiled, and Vin saw something chilling in that smile. A knowledge that he was right. Vin was part of him. That was part earlier. Preservation is dead, Ruin said. You killed him? Yes and no. Sorry.
You're good.
Yes, but no. He gave of himself to craft a cage. Through his throes of agony... Though his throes of agony have lasted several thousand years, now at last he's gone, and the bargain has come to its fruition.
Did you do the opposite of what you did last time?
I think I did the same thing as what I did last time.
Because was it through or though?
It was though.
And you said through?
Yeah.
I think last time you
Was
said...
it last time it was opposite?
You said though, even though it was through?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, though his throes of agony have lasted several thousand years, now at last he is gone, and the bargain has come to its fruition.
Yeah.
And so, preservation, the opposite of ruin. Mm-hmm. A force that couldn't have destroyed his enemy because he would represent the opposite of destruction, but imprisonment, that would be within its powers.
Right, yeah. Keeping ruin in stasis, essentially.
Keeping him preserved.
Preserved.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's
That's
preserving
fine.
ruin.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Not killing him, preserving him. Okay.
I won't even say.
I have a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling I know what you're thinking about, maybe, or like which property at least.
What do you think it is?
I think you're thinking Magnus, probably.
Gotcha. Yeah. I am thinking Magnus,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
won't say why.
Fair enough.
Because I had a thought that I'm like, but I
Yeah.
won't get into it
Yeah.
because we need to finish Magnus.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so then she finds out like about like the promise that they worked together to create the world, to create humanity,
Right.
and that ruin can't create. He can only like destroy, and that preservation couldn't create. He could only preserve. And with the promise that he could destroy it eventually. And I have come to claim what is promised me. The sole point in creating something is to watch it die, like a story that must come to a climax. What I have done will not be fulfilled until the end has arrived.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost wonder it's like... Because I'm trying to think of a way that, like, creation and ruin together, or, like, preservation and ruin together somehow make creation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like...
I think it's the concept of, like, balance, like, itself that, like, is the creation.
Yeah, I guess. But it's like they do literally, like, make shit.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like...
Because, like, their power...
Because, like, the only thing that I can sort of think of, I'm like... If preservation's like, I have this thing, and the thing simply is static, ruin can make it sort of, like, change in a way, but then preservation can keep it from changing so much that it just completely disappears.
Right.
You know? And so it's like, we take a thing, and I make it, like, stable, and then you sort of try and change it, destroy it, break it down into something else, but then I can, like, preserve that thing, that system of change, and then just sort of, like, you know, that's kind of how I can maybe...
Yeah.
Just take stuff that already exists and, like, mold it into a new shape through the judicious application of ruin and preservation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, how do it work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's all fine and good to be like, and together we can create things, but I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Y'all are like fundamental concepts of ruin and creation.
And because even with...
Ruin and preservation. Damn it. Because here's the thing, they're always like, preservation is the opposite of ruin. And like, I get that.
Yeah.
But also it's like, destroying something, creating a new thing. To me, that feels more...
Yeah.
You know, going from something to nothing and then nothing to something.
Yeah.
Rather than like... You know, the preservation of the thing, I can see how it's kind of opposite to ruin.
Yeah. It's like stasis instead of decay.
Yeah. And so to me that feels like it needs to be like, you still need creation as like its own thing, but together they somehow make creation.
Right. So did they make it out of nothing?
Well, I don't know.
Right, like...
See, that's the thing, is like if they have something to work with...
Because like... I'm gonna read this line here real quick. It can't be true, like, with, like, preservation being, like, dead or whatever. Or, well, it is dead, but it's, where is it? Sorry. It can't be true. Preservation, if he represents a power in the universe, then he couldn't really have, then he couldn't have truly been destroyed, could he? Or whatever. And, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it's just, like, there's all this stuff, and then, like, I can only just make the stuff continue to be as it is.
Right.
And all I can do is, like, break it down.
Right.
And so it's like the strategic application of breaking the thing down and preserving it.
Right.
And like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't think, yeah.
Yeah. Then I'm just like creating something from
like
nothing.
just from absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it'll make more sense with time. Maybe he'll put it in some kind of a way that makes me go, okay.
Yeah.
But right now I'm just a little bit like...
I think at the end of this book, if you still have questions, I should be able to answer in a more full way.
Gotcha. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. There's obviously still, like, you know, a lot to discover in other series, but at that point...
Should be able to give me some more concrete answers, perhaps.
Definitely.
Gotcha. Alright, what more do we got?
So there's a bit where Ruin is like, I know what you're thinking. You cannot enlist Preservation's power. He's dead. He couldn't kill me, you see. He could only imprison me. Mm-hmm. And Vin had thought about that, like, at the top of the page. And Ruin mentions that, like, now after, like, it had been a second. So Vin's like, yeah, I figured that part out, that last part out already. You really can't read my mind, can you? Like, in my head. So it's just, like, more confirmation that, like, can't exactly, like, read her mind. Can just, like, speak into her mind.
Right, yeah, can speak into her mind, can't read her mind, and is, like, you know, smart enough to sort of be able to, on a certain level, guess what she's thinking. Yeah. Or not necessarily guess what she's thinking, but, like...
But, like, where she would logically go, you know?
Yeah. But so, like, you know...
Yeah, I'm just like, I got you, you know, like, you didn't have... You, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then she's also, like, thinking, like, what's holding you back? Like, why are you... Like, why haven't you finished destroying the world already?
Right.
Like,
it's like, if there's no more preservation and you can just do whatever you want, destroying things, why are there still things?
Yeah, but something is keeping...
Checkmate atheists.
But something is keeping Ruin from destroying the world now. For all his words about stories and endings, he's not a force that would wait for an appropriate moment.
Yeah.
And then he's like... y'all have days, not weeks, until the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's like, how long? She's like, how long do we have? Days, but not weeks.
Yeah, that's quite something.
Yeah, he thought that, Vin felt a chill realizing something. He had come to her, finally revealing himself, because she was captured. He thought that there was no further chance for humankind. He assumed that he had won. And so then she's like... The conclusion she comes to is, that means I need to get out of here now. He's trying to keep me here, and it means I can do something if I get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he's keeping me here...
means that there is something that can be done. Yeah. It is not hopeless, there's something, and he knows that there's something that can be done to stop him, which is interesting. Information.
Yeah.
Yep. Learn your opponent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the chapter. What chapter is that?
That was 57.
57. Alrighty. Chapter 58.
58. We are back with Sazed and Spook, but we're in Sazed's head, I think. And they're like checking the the lever and the weights for the water and everything. Right.
Yeah. The whole putting water back in the canals and stuff.
Yeah, and just, like, getting everything set for this confrontation.
Right.
And, like, talking about how, like, cool it'll be once the water's in the city, like, in the canals again, and all of that. Then there's just a little bit of a line of, well, here we go again, from Breeze. We're taking over another place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, another little revolution.
Yeah. And so then we go into Spook's perspective. As he, like, goes to this speech of Quellian's and everything.
Yeah, because Quellian's doing some shit. He's like having another
to denounce
Spook as, like, the survivor of the flame and all that.
Yeah. And so, like, when they get there, the speech is, like, already in progress and stuff. And then there's, like, a bunch of riots that Dern didn't start, like, that, like, weren't their riots. And, like, everything kind of goes to, like, shit. Like, basically immediately. like stuff's on fire and it's all like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Kelsier to Spook, Kelsier's voice, a glorious night when I took the city of Luthadel and made it mine. Like, comparing the city being on fire.
And, like, the riots and all that sort of stuff that were happening. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so then there's,
And, like, Spook gets up to, like, quelling or whatever.
Yeah. I like this little line here. The fires of Around him, Spook could feel a glow rising, the fires of rebellion burning in the city, just like the night he had overthrown the Lord Ruler, the torches of revolution. Then the people had put Elend on the throne. This time it would be Spook that they elevated. Weak no more, he thought. Never weak again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not good, buddy.
Yeah.
That's not a good mindset to have there, you know?
Yeah.
Again, he's the type who could fall victim.
Yeah.
If Spook, I'm like, what kind of dude would Spook be in the modern world? Still as like a 10-eye. And I'm like, Spook's just like way into ASMR.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like, cause you like with the whole like I know we said, like, Breeze, like, incel or whatever, but we were talking about, like, alt-right pipeline and all of that.
Yeah.
Where was I going with
I don't know. Maybe that... Because, like, Spook actually... And
oh, that's what it was. I was gonna say, like, the stereotype of, like, Sigma or whatever.
Yeah.
If you were to
Sigma
go...
male grind set.
Right. If you were to go through that, like...
So sort of, like, pipeline or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of, like... Because the whole...
it's the loner, but, like, you know, the mysterious,
the mysterious, powerful loner type, yeah. Yeah, because, like, the whole Breeze being an incel thing is, like, isn't everything kind of manipulation? That was, like, a little bit of a joke and a stretch. But, like, Spook legitimately is, like, wants to impress women, and he's, like, this young guy who wants to, like...
He's probably closer to that actual... He's definitely closer to that actual stereotype.
Yeah. Yeah, you somehow turned your phone's...
I turned my flashlight on while I tried to put my phone just, like, next to me.
Yeah, you were putting your phone on, and I'm just seeing, like, this, like, light over there. I'm like, what? What is happening? Yeah, but, like, Spook, you know, Spook could have fallen into that. Yeah. And, you know, like, getting some sort of charismatic leader to tell him, like, you're great. Just, you know...
Yeah.
You're great just the way you are, and you don't have to change. And you could, you know, if you just enact great violence on people, you could be somebody. Like this other guy who enacted great violence. You know. But also it's like just sort of focusing on like the violent aspects of the whole Kelsier stuff. Because also like, oh, I never liked him, you know. Because like it's not actually
Kelsier, right.
Being like Kelsier.
And like that was like the most kind of... interesting aspect, like with Kelsier, that was like a kind of flaw of his, where he was overly violent sometimes. You know, like he like
he was a little too kill 'em all. Let God decide.
Right.
You know?
And so like he wasn't like full, you know, kill everyone, but also like right. He was very much okay with the killing and killing the nobles and all that stuff. It was an aspect that Vin, like, explicitly rejected, like, later on. Like, an aspect of him that, like, she was like...
Like, he was wrong about these things.
Yeah, she just doesn't...
But Spook is so very much just, like, idolizes him and doesn't have that same kind of, like, thinking about what was right or wrong. He's like, he was great.
Yep.
You know, it's not about the right and wrong, it's about the being great.
Yeah.
You know, being great, being important, being somebody.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, sort of, like, being pushed on him by, like, Ruin and these other sort of things.
And he's been nobody for most of his life.
Yep. And
like, even in a group of like, somebodies, you know.
It's like, you know, instead of being like, you can be better, it's you can be somebody.
Yeah.
At any and all cost, you know.
Yeah.
That's what these, you know, things...
But Spook does have, like, a bit of a heart, and, like, we...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We see that, you know, like, that it kind of is why Ruin's not able to, you know, fully...
Spook is one of those guys who, like, makes a video about how he got out of the alt-right pipeline.
Yes. Oh, my God.
You know? Yeah.
How I left.
How I left. Or how I almost got sucked in, you know, like I was this close, you know?
Yeah.
I was like in those spheres, and then at a certain point I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. That's basically this scene here.
Yep, and then I realized, what are we doing? And I pulled the medal out of my chest and out of and out of Quellian, you know.
Exactly.
If only you could forcibly just rip the
the
incel out of someone's body, the fucking alt-right out of them, you know. You only alt-right because of evil metal Spike is forcing you to be. Who spiked Elon Musk all these years ago? It was, you know, the Emerald Mines. Yeah. His dad put a spike in him. Put an emerald spike in him. Yeah. But no, there's no magical explanation for Elon. He's just a piece of shit. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah. So in this, just trying to figure out kind of where we want to go in here, because there's like a bit of a kind of fight and confrontation between him and Quellian.
Yeah, because he's like trying to like get him to use his allomancy, and then he realizes because. Yeah. So first, what the fuck is her name? Beldre.
Yeah. So first he's like fighting a thug or whatever, and he just has like a thought that like pewter's not enough and all that.
Yeah.
And then like Ruin appears as Kelsier.
Right.
Like, physically. So it like
which
kind
is like
of
the
matches...
first time that happened since he like showed up the first time in the burning building and stuff.
Yeah. And it kind of matches like Vin's like thought of like how Ruin works, like when he's like physically there or when he's just kind of like
just sort of like distantly giving like kill them kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, so we see him there, and he is like wanting Spook to kill Quellian and stuff. And then Beldre's like, you promised, and she shoots the coins because
she was the Allomancer the whole time, which is like, yep, she told you that she was part Ska, and they went after her. It's like she had the Allomancy. It wasn't that he was shooting the coins back then. She was doing it. Yep. She was his bodyguard, essentially.
Yeah. So she was probably there, like, you know, like on her own. You know, like she wasn't really kidnapped.
Yep.
I mean, maybe partially, but you know.
Right. Yeah.
She was in a tense or like, you know, like an interesting spot. You know,
right, but she had sort of like more sort of power than she let on.
Yeah.
You know, more capable than she appeared to be.
Yeah.
Which is a common theme with a lot of these sort of like, oh, these noble ladies who are sort of like, they're just kind of frivolous, whatever. A lot of them, any of them who are actual characters,
it's
every
like,
time they're more capable and competent than it seems like they are, which kind of like, you know, and even the ones who are just sort of like over to the side, who are like, oh, they're just whatever.
Yeah.
Because everyone that we actually like meet and never like get to know.
It feels like they could be.
And you know, it's like this is very much like an image that's like put forward, but is kind of like weaponized. Yeah. In a way, you know, like people assume that they're just, you know, oh, these little court puffs or whatever, but then. They're all secretly, you know, they're all playing the game. Yep. They're all doing Deus Demar, Game of Thrones.
Absolutely.
You know. Yeah.
But yeah, so then she used Allomancy in front of the crowd. So then he did actually get his goal, and they are going after her. You know. So
and he's like, fuck, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah. And so, you know.
Yeah.
They found the hypocrisy and all of that.
Yeah.
And you kept waiting for an assassin. You didn't realize you already sent one. And all of that. And then tries to get him to be more violent and stuff. And to like kill Beldre. And he refuses. He's like Oh, well, so first he sees Quellion reach out towards Kelsier.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
yeah,
like...
it's like, wait, he can see...
Wait!
Mm-hmm. It's like, why can he see him?
I also love the... This is very much...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a direct Bible quote. It's a direct... I just love... My Lord Kelsier, why have you forsaken me? It's just...
Yeah. Yeah. Fall into your arms, I commend my spirit. Fall into your arms, why have you forsaken me? That's in Chop Suey.
Yeah,
Slow down, they sing that bit.
Yeah.
And that's... I'm more familiar than any of the actual, like...
Yeah.
quotes and stuff. Because, like, I'm sure there's multiple versions of that. Because, like, in not every version he says that, right?
Yeah, I think it's in... It may only be in John. In the version in John.
Yeah, because I haven't given a shout out to Bart Ehrman in a while.
Yeah.
But I remember like watching some of his videos talking about like where he talks about like the different versions and how it's like in the different gospels how Jesus is portrayed differently.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's like more or less. Yeah, you can tell
kind of like theologically kind of like why they were written.
Mm-hmm. It's like Jesus is
and
like...
for what audiences.
Right, like more or less sort of divine, more or less human, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, why have you forsaken me? And it's like, no, he couldn't have been forsaken.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the whole theological thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's all very interesting. Yeah. And I haven't watched any of the Bart Ehrman podcasts in a while.
Yeah.
I watched like a bunch of them back in the day, but you know, I haven't been like listening to it at work or anything.
Yeah.
But it's a good one.
Yeah, I like his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then so then in this like thing where he's trying to get Spook to kill Beldre, he wants Spook to kill her for her like coin shot abilities and to like spike himself with her power.
Yeah.
And then he like
because he's just like he kind of goes through like the hemalurgy of it. Yep. It's like you know, get her and kill her and then the spike and then you'll get her power and it's like wait that's how that works.
Yeah, kill her with the spike. This all began on the day I nearly died. I was fighting a thug in the market. I used him as a shield, but the other soldier struck anyway, stabbing through his companion and into me. And then he's like, "Who are you?" to Kelsier.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like, I like this bit. He ripped open his shirt, exposing the mostly healed wound next to his shoulder. A glimmer of metal still shone there, the tip of a sword. The sword that had passed through an Allomancer, killing the man, and then entered Spook's own body. Kelsier had told him to leave the broken shard there as a symbol of what Spook had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the shard protruded from his skin. How had he forgotten about it? How had he ignored such a sizable piece of metal inside his body?
Yep.
He reached for it. And then Kelsier's like, do you want to be normal? And, you know, is trying to convince him to, like, keep it in.
Yep.
And then he finally removes it.
Mm-hmm. Pulls it out, and then he no longer has the pewter.
Yep.
Which is like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep. And so then he like feels all of the pain and like all of the senses and stuff that he's been dealing with, like his tin,
because like the
his
tin
savant like issues, all of those symptoms
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he like pulls a spike out of Quellion?
Yeah.
I know that he does that at some point, but I don't know if that's like immediate.
Yeah. So at first he like almost passes out from the pain and stuff.
Right.
And then he goes up and like he's like sees how like that the city's burning and he like wants to do something. Pulls the spike out of Quellion.
Yep, he's got kind of a moment of clarity.
Yeah. Yeah, Quellion
well, more than a moment, but you know.
Quellion glanced at Spook, looking dazed, as if he had just awoken from a dream.
Mm-hmm. Where was Quellion spiked?
So the citizen's arm had a length of metal, of bronze piercing it.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the placement's important.
Yeah, citizen's upper arm had a length of bronze in it.
Interesting. Which bronze is what Vin has in her ear.
Yeah. It also is interesting because I'm pretty sure that's what... No, that's not what copper mines are made of. I'm crazy. But...
Yeah, because like... Yeah, because copper mines are made of copper,
right.
But also other materials for different things. Yeah, because it's like it seems like for him to just sort of give any sort of like influence.
Yeah.
it just needs to have it be in you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Yeah.
specific placements will cause different effects, but just having it in you at all seems to
have him be at least able to talk to you or have like
right,
some
and sort of like
influence.
manifest to you and stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like seemingly preservation didn't need that to like, but preservation also didn't manifest in quite the same way. But also like, because like Elend had the bead of ATM, and the ATM or like. Not the ATM, but like the bead of Allomancy metal, and Allomancy comes from preservation. He was able to sort of like appear before Elend, but he appeared before Elend as a Mist Spirit even before Elend did Allomancy bullshit. But also, humans in general have more preservation than ruin in them, so maybe that's part of why preservation's able to just kind of like show up as like a vague Mist Spirit and be like, I exist, while ruin needs you to have like a spike in you in order to like show up at all.
Yeah.
But that's just sort of like maybe just some thoughts.
Yeah. But yeah, so then
But preservation also didn't have like a mind at that point.
Right. He's been
Yeah.
because his mind was the prison, so his mind has been gone
For like
a long time.
for like a while now.
It's just been the fucking like leftovers for a while.
Yeah, just like the spirit and the power.
Yes.
Which like what level of understanding does the spirit have, and was that what was seemingly what was like talking to Elend, and like the power itself was probably just kind of existing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Spook, because like Spook pulls the thing out, and then he's like, I gotta do something about these fires.
So then first he he yells at Quellion. He's like, you he goes, you would be king of this city? Well, lead the people. Like, go do it then. He's like, well, I'm gonna get attacked. And Spook's like, deal with it. Do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to go do that.
Yep. And Spook is like, I gotta fucking use the water.
Yeah. They have a quick little bit between Beldre and Spook where he's like, Beldre, and she's like, I betrayed you. I couldn't let you kill him. And he's like, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
He goes, you did the right thing. Something was interfering, Beldre. It had your brother. It almost had me. But now we have to keep going. And so, yeah.
Yep. I was so happy listening to this Spook, like, figuring it out and, like, doing it. I'm like, yes, Spook, yes.
So now that we've gotten, like, this, I feel free to say how I feel about the earlier bit that we, like, talked about with Spook not talking about, like, the whole Kelsier stuff, Kelsier talking to him and all that type of stuff with the crew. Because at the time when I first read it, as I was reading it, I was annoyed that he wasn't communicating, all of that. And then getting to this part and being like, I think Kelsier was really probably telling him not to, or, Ruin was telling him not to
do that and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And was probably,
Yeah, because it's like, if it's like, oh yeah, I suddenly got these powers and I have this bit of metal in me, and it was
purposefully not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
When he first, like, put his shirt on over it or whatever, like, there's a line where he thinks about it. He's like, he should take that out. That's, like, a big piece of metal. And then he forgets about it. Mm-hmm. And then they, like, literally never mention it.
Just like Magnus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Just I know, the little lighter.
Mm-hmm. He always forgets about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, because every time he's just like, oh yeah, I do have this.
But yeah, I also, he goes to, like, do the, like, put the water in and stuff, and, like, as he's going, they're basically like, there's nothing we can do, like, we can't get into there, it's, like, on fire, it's too much.
Right.
And he is kind of thinking, Sazed goes, "Ah, Lord Spook, you are no god to command fire at your whim. You are a man just like the rest of us. We are all just men." Mm-hmm. Spook allowed them to pull him away. Sazed was right, of course. He was just a man, just Spook. Kelsier had chosen his crew with care. He had left a note for them when he died. It listed the others: Vin, Breeze, Dachshund, Clubs, and Ham. He had spoken of them, of why he had picked them, but not Spook, the only one who didn't fit in. Mm-hmm. I named you Spook. You are my friend. Is that enough?
Yeah.
And he, like, froze and then, goes and runs into the building. He turns off his tin so he completely can't feel anything.
And he just runs through the flames.
And, yeah, gets burnt the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. It was... This was a good... I really liked this chapter.
Yeah.
This was, like, listening to this, I was very, invested.
Yeah.
Just being like... And also, it's such an interesting payoff to the whole Tin Savant thing. Not the hypervigilance as the superpower, but the numbness afterwards.
Yes.
Allowing him to just, like, run through the flames. And he fully, like... I know that he, like, lives through this, but he, like, sacrifices himself big time for this. And, like, goes in and
pulls it. He, like, can't even, by the time he gets in there, he can't even, like, feel it or anything, and he just pulls it.
He just kind of, like, puts his weight on it and, like,
and
pulls
then passes out, I think.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just, like, it, like, truly, like, what a, like, it's such a good act of heroism for him.
Yeah.
And then, part of his whole being the survivor of the flame and all that stuff, Yeah. This was I really enjoyed this chapter when I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good conclusion to this, like, his kind of internal arc here and everything.
And then, it's like, I named you Spook, you're my friend.
Yeah, and kind of get that real, like, like, that's how Kelsier...
Right, it's like,
that's how he, like, really, like, remembers Kelsier, how he actually would have been.
He's had fake Kelsier in his head for so long, and then he has a moment of, like, really, like, remembering Kelsier, because Kelsier, he was all about the joy and the laughter and the, like,
and he cared about them. Like, he cared about his crew, and, like, he did, like, want Spook around. Like, he, like... If he didn't care about him and didn't want him around, he wouldn't have
had him there. Yep. He would have been like, "Hey, fuck off."
Yeah.
But no, Spook was always around.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the end of whatever chapter that was.
End of 58 / the end of part 4.
The end of part 4, and then it goes on to part 5, which is Trust.
Yes.
Yeah. Part 5, Trust, and chapter 59.
Yep, we are in Arto with Tensoon.
And it's called Trust, and I have the theory that the trust is the body.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's anything, but I'm just like, I'm still out here theory.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's going through Arto and he's like, wow, the canals are full. That's crazy. And it's like, it looks like it was on fire, and now it's not on fire, and there's canals. That's cool.
Right, or Sir.
Yes.
Or Sir, yeah.
Sorry, I meant Tensoon.
Tensoon, yeah. That's what I meant. Like, you said the name,
yeah,
and then
in Arto.
Yeah. Well, because, like, you said the thing, and then I said something, and then you were like, yeah, he's going through, and I'm like, who's going? I had just, like, lost it, and then I was like, oh, right, yeah, it's, but then I got Tensoon's name wrong, because Orsur and Tensoon and the switching places, and they're in Orto, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And then there's there's Alviarin, and, and, Elida, and,
Yeah. Yeah, so then he's, like, walking through, kind of examining the city and just being, like, people, like, seem excited that, like, they don't seem devastated that the city burned down. They seem happy that, like, they saved some of the city. You know, like, just kind of gauging the feeling in the city and everything.
Yeah.
And then he comes up, and there's just a fun little bit of him being a talking dog. Here now, this is no place for dogs. Whose hound is this? Tensoon sent back on his haunches. I belong to no man, he said. The guard jumped, and Tensoon got a twisted sense of pleasure. He immediately tried it himself. The world was ending, and he went about startling random soldiers.
It's... You deserve it, buddy. You've been through a lot in your life. You deserve a little bit of fun. It's like, well, okay then, talking dog.
Yeah, and so then he goes, I've come from Emperor Venture. I have a message for the leaders here. And they're like, sure, like, and bring him back.
It's like, this might as well happen.
Exactly. And so then he goes and finds Breeze, and this is their first actual conversation, which is just like kind of interesting because Tensoon thinks about that or whatever. It's like, so Breeze goes, "So, were you always a Khandra, or did you eat the bones of Vin's hound recently?" Because she was trying to test them to see if they were the Khandra, so no one knew that her wolfhound was a Khandra.
Yeah.
None of the crew knew.
No, none of the crew knew.
And he left, like, after,
Right, yeah, because, like, at the time I remember being like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just sort of, because he's like, he assumes he's like, or sir.
Yeah, so then he goes, he goes, "I was always a Khandra." And he's like, "I knew there was something odd about you. Far too well-behaved for a wolfhound. Lord Renew, I presume? It's been a while." And he goes, "I'm a different Khandra. It's complicated."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's a little scared of Breeze because he's worried about Mistings taking control and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, but they're not as strong, so, like, it should be fine."
Yeah.
And so then he goes and talks to Sazed, and is trying to, like, bait him with, terrorist, like, religious, like, with, Condor religious stuff, terrorist religious stuff. And at this point, he doesn't quite bite yet.
No, because then Tensoon's actually, like, there for, like, a while.
Yeah, he's there for a little bit. I think maybe, like, a week or something.
Yeah, he's there for, like, some number of days.
Yeah, like, trying to get, like, ready and, like, figure out, because he's like, "Oh, now I gotta go to Fadric City," which is all the way across the map.
Yeah. Yep, and,
Yeah, he's like, "It's gonna take me weeks to get there," or whatever.
He doesn't have his big conversation with Sazed in this chapter, right?
No, he just mentions it a little bit.
Yeah, and Sazed doesn't take him up on it, doesn't end up asking him about Khandra religion stuff.
Yeah, because he, like, drops a hint, but Sazed doesn't ask about it, so Tensoon doesn't go any further.
What's the hint that he drops?
He just says, "It has to do with the hero of ages and the advent of the world's end." "Ah," Sazed said, rising. "Very well, then I should give you whatever provisions you need," and just doesn't offer to go with him, doesn't ask anything about it, nothing.
Right, which on the one hand, it's like, trying to sort of bait him into talking about, like, the religion stuff and all this. But also, it's like, yeah, that's kind of just the present situation that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah,
So
it's about the imminent end of the world. It's like, yeah, everything kind of is, isn't it? Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
It's become a little mundane. Yeah, the world's ending, hero of ages, yeah, that makes sense. Go talk to whatever.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the end of...
Because I don't think I really, like, picked it up as, like, oh, he's trying to, like, drop a hint and, like, get him to talk, like...
Yeah, because he, like, thinks about it a little bit. He's
like,
just
he does,
like,
yeah.
He's like, "I'll never understand. Like, I don't get it." Like, because, like, the whole thing is, like, he was wary around Sazed before because he's like, keepers are, like, going out looking for knowledge. We've been trying to keep it secret, so we've always been told to stay away from them, and so, like...
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the end of 59?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Chapter 60.
I like the beginning of this chapter, like the beginning line. We're back with Vin, and the beginning is, "The best way to fool someone, in Vin's estimation, was to give them what they wanted, or at least what they expected." And so, this is where she attacks a bunch of times when they expected to. Earlier I was saying, but that was not that time. It's this time that she does that.
Yeah, because I was,
Yeah. There was a few screws. That's what you were talking about. She took out a few silver screws. And that's what she had.
Yep, and then she, like, throws them or something, and they're like, "Oh no, metal!" But it's like, you fool.
Yeah.
Because there's just the instinctual, like, oh shit, she's doing something. She must, like, have gotten metal somehow or something. Which is like, nope, I'm just faking you out.
Yeah, but she did that as, like, a distraction to put grease on her hands so she could escape a different way. Yeah.
Yep.
And so then she's brought in front of Yeoman. And this is, like, her, like, kind of, quote, trial or whatever. So first she, like, goes for the ATM on his head, and then he burns ATM, and so then sits her back down.
Yeah.
And
then he talks about, like, ATM being, like, worthless.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So then, like, Ruin shows up. Yeoman can't see him, but she sees him. So he seems to, like, be kind of paying attention. And so then she's also like, you're a Mistborn because you're burning ATM. And he's like, no, I'm not a Mistborn. And so she's like, well, that's...
It's like, how does that make any fucking sense?
Right. And so then she's like,
Yeah, because it's like, how does that make sense? Because like, it's not... I don't think it's an aliment. It's not like a heme allergy thing, because if you had heme allergy spike, then you'd be able to see Rune, blah, blah, blah. So it's not that, so he must just be like a fucking ATM misting, essentially.
Yeah, because they've been, like, told that that's not possible. Because I think she has, like, a thought where she's like, we've been told it's not possible, but, like, who knows what, like, because, like, the Lord Ruler is hidden stuff, so, like...
Right, and it's not like ATM's just out and available for someone to accidentally find out that they're an ATM misting. Because it's like, why would it only be that these metals make you mistings?
Yeah.
That you can only be a misting for these ones and not, you know, the other expanded ones that we found. A lot of them wouldn't really do anything for you. Like duralumin and aluminium aren't going to do anything.
Right.
I said aluminium. Wow. Aluminum. Because America. I mean, America sucks, so maybe I should say aluminium. But no, like aluminum and duralumin, they're not really going to do anything for you. And like, isn't gold one?
Yeah.
But it's like, who's gonna just eat gold to figure out if they're like a gold misting? And if you were a gold misting, what, you'd be able to like see your alternate self and just freak out? You know, it's like, who's eating gold to find out? You know, you're not getting trace metals of gold from like cups or whatever, unless you're like some sort of noble, in which case, like, I don't know what they do about that. Yeah. So it's like, maybe.
Yeah. So he's like, time to make a decision on your execution. And he asks, like, why they came to Fadric City. And it's like, because they're going after the supply caches.
And he's like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have a conversation about that and, like...
Yep, about, like why they were there and, like, invading and, like, diplomacy. And it's like, oh, you're conquerors and, you know.
And like, you know, the Lord Ruler left this in case he died. So, like, obviously, like, he's dead and he could die. It's like, no, he just wanted us to think that he could die for some reason, or that he is dead for some reason. This is, you know... And they're having some of that talk.
Yeah, she also thinks, like, is this how I would have been? Like, would I have been, like, yeoman if I was born, like, not on the streets? And, like, all that. Just, like, thinking, you know, like, about them.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of, like, interrogating her about, like, her position in the church and, like, all of that. So she's like, I want you to tell me of this religion your people preach. The Church of the Survivor? Yes, you're one of the heads, correct? No, they revere me, but I've never felt that I properly fit in as part of the religion. Mostly it's focused around Kelsier. And then it's... the survivor of Path's End, he died. How is it that people worship him? It used to be common to worship gods that one couldn't see. Perhaps I have read of such things, though I find them difficult to understand. Faith in an unseen god. What sense does that make? Why reject the god that they lived with for so long? The one they could see and feel in favor of the one that died. One that the Lord Ruler struck down.
So if all this happened in this chapter, what happened in that last chapter when we were talking about all this?
Yeah, it was a, like, smaller conversation.
Like, about what? Because, like, a bunch of the stuff that we're talking about now, we were talking about then.
Right, yeah, because that's why I was saying to, like, we could skip to this section. Because it wasn't all in this bit. It was just, she got her earring back.
Yeah, because there was the whole thing about,
it's just, like, she awoke without her medals. She, like...
And he, like, explains, like, oh, it's all silver and stuff. And she, like...
Gets her earring. And then, oh, that's what it was. It was the meeting to let Elend know that she was okay.
Right,
Send a message her.
Gotcha. And that was, like, mostly it?
That was it.
Gotcha. Alright, so then this is when all that shit that we were talking about before actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the, like, theological stuff and the trial and the, you know, where does she fit and the religion and all that jazz. Yeah, we got ourselves a little mixed up.
Yeah.
I don't know, where is it?
Because I was in the middle of this sentence here. There. Why reject a god... The god that they lived with for so long, and the one they could see and feel in favor of one that died, one that the Lord Ruler struck down. You do it, you're still... you do it, you're still worshipping the Lord Ruler. He's not gone. No, I haven't seen or heard of him since his disappearance. However, neither do I put any credence in reports of his death. He was rather dead, trust me. I don't trust you, I'm afraid. And so then he goes through, like, everything.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, why would you do this? Like, because he fucking sucked.
Yep. And then, he's... What I need to find out is why the Lord Ruler thought it necessary for you to think that you had killed him. And I love that, like, so much. As just a, like, it's like, he hears all this, gets all of it, like, laid out, like, for him, and he's like, okay. Well, he's obviously still, like...
Yeah, it's part of the, like, religious mindset.
Yeah, and it just...
of, like, well, I know a priori... before and above all else, that God is true.
Yep.
And so therefore, everything else that seemingly proves to the contrary must somehow be still explainable within,
Yep. And there's another line that goes with it. Didn't you just listen to what I said? I did. You find my words ridiculous? More ridiculous than your own? Think of how I see you, claiming to have slain a man I know to be God.
Yeah.
Is it not plausible that he wanted this to happen? That he's out there still watching, waiting? And so, yeah, she realizes that he's really just wants to, like...
Yeah.
He's convinced the Lord Ruler's still alive and wants to, like, just figure out what,
Yeah, what's the deal? Like, how do you fit into my theological framework?
Yep.
Which is also a question that the Khandra are having.
Yeah.
Because Tensoon's answer is, well, she's replaced the Lord Ruler. She's the new...
Yeah.
She's mother now.
Yep.
But, I doubt that, Yeoman would be too happy with that interpretation.
Yep. And then Vin comes to the conclusion that Tensoon came to, actually, and she's like, no. Yeah, I killed him. I took his place.
Yep, I'm the new Lord Ruler.
And she goes, they're wrong about me. They don't worship me. They worship what I think I should be, but I'm not the heir of the survivor. I didn't do what Kelsier did. He freed them, and then you conquered them, like Ruin says, or whatever. And she goes, no, he's not coming back. He doesn't need to. I took his place. And I also like that she's like, Elend was worried about him being the Lord Ruler, but he didn't conquer, I did. Like, I was the one who... And
I'm the one who set him up on the throne and all that. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the one who made them kneel and make him emperor and stuff.
Yeah, and so I just...
Yep, that was a fun little bit of it. It's like, oh, Elend, he's, conqueror, he's out here. It's like, no, it's actually... It's more Vin than it is him. Yeah. Empress. Yeah,
and so then they kind of get into like continue to argue back and forth,
right?
Like about like and it's like he's like, oh, I want you to tell like Elend not to attack or whatever, and she's like, why would I do that? And he's like, because you claim to want the good for people, but you don't. And it just kind of comes down to like resources and all that. It comes down to like, we needed to grow crops, we need enough light, or like we don't. We get enough light in the central dominance while you don't. It'll be useless to you. Then trade us. You won't talk to us. And just kind of back and forth, like, it kind of all. He keeps kind of having it be like this religious difference, and then being like, oh no, it's this material. It's like you're conquering. Bring it to this material thing. He's doing this. You're doing that, or whatever. And then she's like, no, but this and the other thing, and then he brings it back to a religious thing. And then kind of that cycle goes on over and over again, and it's sort of shifting the goalposts. Yeah. But it's just like an interesting kind of back and forth. Yep. And then the ending of this here is, you know full well why we have to take the city. As long as you have it, we have reason to conquer you. It. Bruin stepped forward, curious. You know what I mean? The ATM. And he says that it's worthless. And then they talk about, like, the ATM economics. Yep. And how that's completely broken down, and it has been broken down, and there's no one to use it, and it's worthless now. So, like, why are you even looking for it? Yeah. And it's like... and I don't know that even fully makes sense. It's like, bitch, you've been using it to, like, stay alive against us. Yeah. When I tried to kill you, and when
Elend tried to attack you. You've been using it to stay alive, and I can still use it, so of course I want it.
Yeah.
You know, but it is, like, less valuable now that, like, the Lord Ruler doesn't have, like, the same control over the economy in that way. But at this point, it's like, I mean, it's not useless.
Yeah.
But also it is interesting because it obviously must have some other use that Ruin is interested in, which I'm guessing is where the, quote, ATM retcon comes from.
No.
Oh.
Don't worry about the ATM retcon in this book at all.
Sure.
Literally don't think about it for this book. I'll talk about it at the end of this book for the future. It does not have anything to do with this book. Don't worry about it.
Interesting. Then why does he care about the ATM? Because I'm like, ATM doesn't do anything that would, like...
Yeah, think about it that way. Don't think... Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like...
That's what you should be thinking
It must do something else as well. Right. Is the only thing that I can think of, but I'm like...
Like, Ruin is interested for some reason. Why is he interested?
Unless ATM somehow... Because, like, my only other theory is that ATM is somehow the body of Ruin, but I don't know how that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because also that doesn't, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, why would he want it, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, we can go to 61.
Alrighty. Chapter 61.
Yeah, we are with Elend.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up and people were surprised that he made it back.
He really fucked me over by, like, saying that whole ATM retcon thing, because it got it so in my head.
I know. Literally, don't worry about it. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
Like, I know, but I'm just like, it's just, like, fucked up that he was like, and here's this thing about ATM that has nothing to do with the actual... like, first trilogy, and just put it in my head to where I'm thinking about it uselessly this whole time.
Yeah.
And also, it's just like, just like, here's some shit that you don't need to know.
Yeah.
But also, it's just whatever. Yeah, so... But anyway.
I was watching a Cradle podcast the other day that I had to turn off, like, a couple minutes in, because... This guy really loves Cradle, and he really wants his friends to love Cradle.
Yeah.
Let him read the fucking book.
Yeah.
Like... he's like, you're gonna meet this character soon who has this trope that you love, and this is their backstory. I'm like, what's the fucking point of even watching this? Like, yeah. I'm like, your friend, like, yes, your friend is not quite into it just yet. It's the beginning. It's the setup. He doesn't have to love these characters yet. Yeah. You didn't love the character when you first read it. You were learning about them. That's part of the fun of exploring a new book, a new series. Right. Why the fuck are you just, like, going down about... And I'm like... And he's like, I don't consider this spoilers. Bitch, if you don't consider that spoilers, I don't want to watch anything that you put out. Because it's... Everything that you're laying out to him are just full spoilers. So he did that for one character. And then he went to, like, 5... You're gonna meet this character, this character, this character. I'm like... What's the point of him even fucking reading this? You just want to explain it to him. Don't have your friend read the series. Apparently you just want...
Yeah, just do a video where it's like, exactly. I explain Cradle to my friend for like, however long.
I think your friend would actually enjoy it. Like, he is taking a second to get into it, but I think you're actually actively sapping his enjoyment because... Anyway, full aside from anything related, but I was really annoyed about that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, this is, like, really random, but, like, on Game Grumps, when, like, Barry and Ross played Undertale, and then later, some, like, years later, Dan and Aaron actually, like, play Undertale themselves, and Ross is just being so annoying about it. Like literally fucking in your playthrough that y'all did at the beginning, you're like, Toby Fox has said that you should go into this blind or whatever, so just don't play the game and then come watch our thing. And then Ross is there being like, oh, do this thing. Like, do specifically this thing because it'll be the best thing for you. Which is the exact type of shit that you're not supposed to do. It's like, just let them experience the game how they're going to experience it. And, like, also, like, the thing that you're like, oh, you can do the, like, here's, like, kind of a hidden little thing that you can do. And it's like, it kind of, I don't know. It's like, if you're going for this run, doing, like, oh, you can also do, like, this thing. Like, because it was about, like, the Toriel fight.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, oh, you can, like, spare her, and then, like, right when you're, like, about to, like, spare her the last time, attack her, and, like, it gives, like, a different reaction from her, where it's like, oh, it seems like you're going to spare her, and then you actually kill her, and it gives, like, a different reaction from her than if you just, like, kill her, like, normally.
Yeah.
Like, as if, like, a normal run, and I'm like, why would
you have him do that first?
Why would you have him do that first?
That's not, like, a starting...
Because, like, I think they'd already done, like, a regular run, and so when they were doing the genocide run, he was like, oh, do it this way. And it's like, why have them, like, do that? Like, just let them play the game.
Yeah.
But he was just, like, so annoying. And also was saying some bullshit about, like, oh, when we played it, When I played it with Holly, we encountered some sort of bug. They didn't. It's like, oh, we encountered, like, a fight before we were supposed to, and Holly killed the thing without, like, because she didn't know. And it's like, no, I've watched it, and that's not how it went down at all.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, a whole thing where I'm like, why are you saying that this is how... It's not how it went down even remotely at all.
Yeah.
You encountered a fight... exactly when you were supposed to, after they'd already heavily said, like, you don't have to kill anything, and then she killed something, and Ross was like, why did you do that? But then, like, later it's like, oh yeah, no, she, like...
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, why?
It's like, no, it's just...
Like, no, like, that's not how it went at all. It was very weird. But also, I'm biased against Ross. I don't like Ross. I mean, I'm sure he's, like, a fine person, but I do not always necessarily enjoy him on Game Grumps. Just a personality thing, you know.
Fair enough. He's fairly abrasive, I feel like.
Yeah, just, like, his type of humor and stuff. And also, he just very much gives me the vibe of someone who's, like, I'm right.
Yeah.
And, like, hearing his, like, some of his, like, media opinions about things, I'm just like... Whatever, man.
Yep.
Batman has to be this one specific way, and that's why, you know, the Christopher Nolan ones are stupid and dumb. And I'm like, I mean, you don't have to like them, but, like, you don't have to do, like, you can make a more serious, gritty Batman, and that's allowed.
Did you see Shad freaking out about the new Superman trailer?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's upset because it shows him beaten up as the first shot. And Superman is supposed to be indomitable, and so he can be challenged throughout the movie. But why would you show that as the first image of a trailer? Do you understand what a fucking trailer is, you dumbass fucking...
It's so stupid. That's so stupid.
It was just... I watched a stream the other day, just they were going through his reaction to the trailer. Actually, they were reacting to his reaction to their reaction to his trailer. And he's like, yeah, I get it. This is stupid, and this is too much of a like... reaction, you know, Inception type of thing. This is the last one I'm doing. It's necessary. I'm doing it. I'm sorry for the abomination on screen.
Do you remember who the person was?
I'll send it. I don't remember. I'll find it. Okay,
because I'm wondering if I recognize it. But that the whole like reaction and Inception thing reminds me of something that
reminds me of Bo Burnham.
Jesse Cox, who you know, I've shown you clips from the Geekenders podcast where it's like Dodger and Jesse and stuff. The reaction Inception thing is what you were looking for. Dodger and Krendor, his friend Krendor, they had a funny like back and forth of videos for a bit there, where he was reacting to like some of Krendor's videos, and so then Krendor made a video reacting to Jesse reacting to Krendor's videos, and so then they just kept going back and forth reacting to the same video over and over again, and having like an argument about a chicken sandwich or something over the course of these reaction videos, until eventually it just like stopped. But and then there's like this point. Okay, I don't recognize the person.
Anthony Gremolga.
Gotcha. Yeah, because there's like some other guy who like he does a bunch of stuff like talking about Shad who I've like seen.
Gremoglia.
And it's like, yeah, West Side Tyler.
Okay.
It is like someone who I've seen talk about like Shad and his book and stuff. And so I was wondering, and I see that he does like a bunch of videos on him. So just the fucking
it's just like
reactionception. You know, I've seen that thumbnail. A critic who won't be criticized. I've seen that thumbnail. Yeah. In that title. But yeah, so like Jesse Cox and Crendor were just doing like a back and forth thing, like reacting to the reacting and having like this argument about a chicken sandwich or whatever. And like there's like a period in the in the video where like Crendor says something, and so then Jesse Cox like repeats it, and so then they're just like are all saying it at like the same time as it goes on, and it's just like it's just funny. It's like, oh wait, we're coming up to the and then they say the thing together, and then they like keep going. It's just
that is great.
It was a funny little little bit that was going on for like a few days where they were just going back and forth for a while since they're like friends and stuff. But what were we actually even talking about?
We can go back to chapter 61.
We can go back to chapter...
That's where we were at. We were probably at the beginning of the chapter. I don't think we really got into it.
Yeah, no. I don't think we really did.
Yeah, we're with Elend.
Or with Elend. Yeah. Yeah, we hadn't...
He came back after his Koloss and his conversation with Dying God.
Yeah, how did we didn't even start the
fully have no idea what we were talking about, how we even got on that tangent.
Yeah, right. Yes, because I was talking about how I got all fucked up because that person said the thing about the retcon. Yes. And then you were like, the Cradle podcast, and then I was... Yeah. Anyway.
Straight up, don't worry about that. It's not something to think about until later.
Right, yeah. So now we can actually start the chapter.
So he talks about how many Koloss he got on his little trip. He got 37. Sorry, they have 37,000 total.
Yeah, which is like a bunch.
Yeah. He brought in 28,000. And also on his walk back, he was like, in his head, because he's like, it's really weird there was an Inquisitor. Why wasn't there an Inquisitor? Like...
Because Ruin wants him to have them. My guess is that, like, Ruin put them there for him to get them because Ruin wants him to attack and to cause chaos and stuff. Yeah. Well, let the Lord of Chaos reign.
Yep. And so 1,000 are controlled by Vin still. Mm-hmm. And that's how they know she's still alive, because she still has control of them.
Yep. Even after being like knocked out and stuff.
Yep. And then talking about they don't have any scouts back from Central Dominance or whatever, or most of them didn't return. The one who did said it like sucks there.
Yeah.
And
that shit's bad.
Yeah, and basically, and it's worse everywhere else because the people who are in other places are fleeing to Luthadel, and then in Luthadel it sucks. And King Lakel and his city fell to lava from one of the ash mounts. So that's just kind of all the news that they've been getting.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Gennaro or something like that. In weeks, his entire retinue seems to have vanished, and the northern dominance is in chaos. The entire southern dominance is said to be burning.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just crazy. Mm-hmm. There's not much they can do. And it's so then his whole thing is like he's like, well, we got to get into the cache, and so they're like, I guess we're going to attack.
Yep. Even though God didn't want you to.
Yeah, he's like, I have to be the man who'll make hard decisions. He's like, we're gonna attack in the morning.
Yep, he's still in Elend Emperor mode where he's like, I gotta make the hard decisions, and even though I had this weird ass fucking interaction with the Mist Spirit, I gotta just like, you know, I can't base all of my decisions off some random interaction I have with the Mist Spirit that I don't even understand.
Right, I don't know what's, and so then his plan is, we'll rescue Vin, get into the cavern, then get to Luthadel with the food supplies, and survive as long as we can. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so that's just a short little...
Yeah, most of these chapters here are a bit shorter, except for this next one.
Yeah, see, that chapter was short, so we had to go on a nice tangent instead, you know?
Yeah.
Alright, so we're ready for the next one. Chapter 62.
62, we're with Sazed, and he is over Spook, and he's like, he tries pewter, because he's like, well, maybe he's burning pewter, and he's like, well, I guess he's not burning pewter. He can't. He isn't. And so I was like, well, you just... Wrong timing. If you would have done it a couple...
Yeah. If it had been another time, it would have worked. And it's like, that's not good for him.
Yeah. And so then kind of setting up this...
At least it's only a little bit of pewter.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's kind of saying how the city is doing. Quellion is in charge and normal, like a normal person.
But he's not in charge anymore, is he? Because, like, Breeze is kind of in charge now. Or something. Like, Quellion's more normal, but, like, Breeze is the one who's, like, talking to people and, like, dealing with things, and Quellion's just kind of like, well, I exist now.
Yeah. Was it okay, so though Breeze ruled in Arto, Quellion was still an authority. So he has some measure of authority, he's just not completely in charge.
Yeah.
Because it's, he's now seemed willing to consider an alliance with Elend.
Yeah, because he's no longer being, like, pushed in the other direction by Ruin. And now that he knows that, like, oh yeah, the Kelsier that was talking to me wasn't real. It's like, yeah, maybe an alliance is fine, actually.
Right, and Sazed is, like, confused. He's like, what happened? Why was this guy crazy? You know, he's normal. Like, what, like...
Sazed is like, what the fuck is going on, man?
And Spook was being all weird, and he maybe was using pewter, but now he's fucking
not.
I don't get it.
What is with you people?
Yes, and then he's kind of thinking, like, oh, it seems like she likes Spook. Beldre likes Spook and everything.
Yeah. Because Spook hasn't, like, woken up yet.
No, he's recovering. And then Sazed goes to work on his religions.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, because he finally, like, works through all of them.
He works through all of them, and he's not satisfied and feels just kind of numb and just
like,
lost.
Doesn't know what to do anymore.
Yep.
Because he'd been kind of putting them off because he was afraid of exactly this,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. And it's kind of...
Yeah.
What's up?
No, you can...
I was just going to say going through all of them, and that was the end of my sentence there.
Gotcha, yeah. Because I think it's in here that he sort of, like, thinks about some of this, like, religion stuff, and I enjoy his atheism sort of more here.
Yeah.
I think... I don't remember exactly, like, what all he's, like, saying and stuff, but he has some sort of thing where he's, like, you know...
like, maybe this little bit here, like, and there's also the stuff here that's, like, the beginning of his... Yeah. Because some of the stuff about, like, how could they honestly expect him to have faith in something that taught of miracles and wonders in the far past, but carefully gave excuses for why such things didn't occur in the present day? Yeah. Like, that one especially, but, like, you know, even the other stuff you're saying, you know, it's like, because, you know, it's always, like, we just sort of get him being like, nope, it doesn't make sense and incompatible or whatever. Yeah.
But now getting, like, a little bit more of the specifics of, like, you know,
like, what feels incompatible,
Right, yeah.
And they feel incompatible with themselves, not just each other.
Yeah, it's like, how did men believe in something that preached love on one hand, yet taught destruction of unbelievers on the other? How did one rationalize belief with the lack of proof? It's like, it was odd how many common features they all had. Most claimed ultimate authority, denouncing other faiths. Most taught of an afterlife, but could offer no proof. Most taught about a god or gods, yet again had little justification for their teachings. And every single one of them was riddled with inconsistencies and logical fallacies. Just the sort of, like, we're the ultimate authority, but not them. You know... preaching love, but then also the destruction of other religions, you know. And that aspect, the ways in which, like, not only are they illogical, but also, like, in some ways, like, harmful and destructive.
Yeah.
It's love and kindness, but not for them.
Yep.
You know, and, like, that sort of aspect of it as also being, you know, it's like... It is compelling to me. And then also it's like, you know, the believers are supposed to be blessed, and yet... a hardship falls on them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, which for him is sort of the most important. Right. But isn't necessarily the most important for, like, me personally.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, you know,
it's the aspect that he kind of
like is most sort of concerned with because of the whole, like,
because of his recent loss, like with Tindwyl and just like everything else that's happening as well. But
why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
But specifically to, like, believers when it's supposed to, like, you know, protect you in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he kind of ends it with a teeny bit of hope where he is he pulls out the book that him and Tyndall worked on with the Hero of Ages stuff and all of that, and is like first of all being like, no, I do still care, and then like continuing to search just like a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then also finds the picture that that Mare gave Kelsier, that Kelsier gave Vin, and Vin
of the
gave
flower.
Cesar.
Yeah. With like the drawing of the flower and whatnot. Yeah. The hope.
Yep. And so then he hears Tensoon saying that he's going to his home world and he's gonna figure it out himself, and Sazed is like decides to go with him and figure it out.
Yeah. and Tensoon's kind of like, finally.
Yeah. Yep. And there's also like a little bit of that because like there's him kind of believing in ruin but not anything else, and just being like
I think also one of the things that I like about that little section is like talking about how they're also like remarkably similar, where it's like, it's not just like this religion is factually inaccurate, because like he's looking for like the right one, and it's like, because it's like, oh, he's like kind of an atheist, but then he's also kind of not, because he's still like looking for like the right religion, so on some level he still kind of is trying to believe that one of them could be right. He's looking for an objective truth, and all he has are these, and then sort of like the coming out at the end and being like, the whole sort of like religious structure as a whole is kind of a flawed mode in the way it's like, oh, this is like the one truth, but we don't have any proof, and like, oh, you should love and peace, but only for us and not for them, and sort of like the ways in which a lot of these religions all kind of like are similar. The sort of like a sort of criticism of like the overall structure of religion. More so than just being like, and this one's wrong, and this one's wrong, and this one's wrong, but it's like he's, that's the framework that he had. There's just like these religions, and so he kind of has to go through them individually, and then at the end he can kind of look at them and be like, it's interesting how they all kind of like follow similar patterns of being wrong. And stuff. And so I think that was kind of like just like a more interesting talking about it than had happened before. Yeah. So, but yes, you were saying.
I think I was.
Because like, you were like looking for something.
Yeah, I think I.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like he finally like starts talking to Tensoon.
Yeah, and Tensoon says something. Says. Farewell, Soother. Give my regards to the announcer. And Sazed's like, announcer? What did you call me? You are you not? The one who pointed out Lady Vin as the Hero of Ages? That, then, is your title. I thought myself the first holy witness, the prophet foretold to discover the Hero of Ages. So then that's kind of what he goes to... Yeah,
he finally starts, like, talking to him about, like, the Khandra, like, religion and stuff,
and then this is where we find out about the Khandra a little bit more. So we
sure do.
How did you know the words of the ancient Terrace prophecies? It strikes me as odd. There's one great inconsistency in all of this, a problem no one has ever thought to point out. What happened to the packmen who traveled with Rashik and Elendi up to the Well of Ascension? That's easy. Everyone knows that when the Lord Ruler took the throne of Klenium, he made his trusted friends into noblemen. That's why the nobility of the final empire were so pampered. They were the descendants of Rashik's loyal friends. No, that couldn't be. He couldn't have made those packmen into noble. Why not? Because the nobility gained allomancy. Rashik's friends were ferochemists. If he made them into noblemen, then they could have challenged him. It would have been ferochemy and allomancy together.
Yep. And so instead, he turned them into Khandra.
So, I'm going to read this out. So, he offered them a bargain, speaking directly to their minds while he was holding the power of creation. What bargain? Immortality, in exchange for their ferochemy. they gave it up along with something else. They gave up their humanity. We call them the first generation. The father transformed every living feruchemist into a mistwraith, beginning that race. His good friends, however, he returned to sapience with a few hemalurgic spikes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, like, as I'm thinking about it, because there was a whole thing, I'm like, how?
Because when you first read it, you were a bit, like, confused.
Very confused. And there's a part of me that's still, like, we haven't had it fully explained on how it works, so, like, maybe. But it's like, if every living feruchemist became a Kandra, why are there still feruchemists?
Yeah.
And the answer, I guess, is that it is still sort of like, in a sense, recessive.
Yeah, so it still will keep...
It'll just, like, pop up occasionally. It's not that you need a feruchemist parent. It can, like...
It can come
like
up from two,
generations.
from two non-feruchemists. You can still have a feruchemist child.
Right, it's like a recessive trait that pops up sometimes.
Yeah, so everyone living.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So...
And then he also did still want feruchemists around because he still wanted to use them for hemalurgy. So the breeding programs was partially to get rid of feruchemy and partially to use feruchemy for hemalurgy.
Yeah, it was never actually to get rid of it.
Exactly.
It was simply to control it and keep it within his control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that really sort of goes to show the whole, like, he wasn't because, like, he starts off as being, like, a sort of terrorist supremacist, but he never, like, but he's really a himself supremacist, which is the true sort of nature of
and he's terrorist. He's a feruchemist, so it's a supremacist, and they are supremacists, so they need, like, I want to be the one in control, so they all need to go. Like, we are, you know, better.
Like,
so
like the true nature of, like, fascism, like white supremacy, nationalism, any of those things is not that you actually necessarily. I mean, there are people who will truly believe this. Yeah. That, like, you know, white people are, like, inherently one thing or another, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it's the reason is that it's the group that you're in, so that it can make you be superior. And the way it goes is that, you know, in fascism it's supposed to be this, like, pyramid where you have, like, the few at the top and the many at the bottom, but the pyramid always shrinks because you always need another group to be below. And so, like, the people at the top, they always end up having this, like, infighting and vying for who can be at the very, very, very top. And it's like, it's you know, it's not that I think that I'm the absolute best. We're the best. Yeah. You know, the group that I belong to is the best, and thus I am also elevated. Yeah. But, like,
but they can't be able to be as elevated as me, so they can be this other.
But the moment that you have the opportunity to be better than, because it's like, even within the group of, like, whiteness, it's the blonde hair and the blue eyes. You know, it's those things, and, you know, a lack of certain disabilities and, like, a certain physical. It's like anything that you can do to limit it until it's just you. You know. And so it's like, as soon as the power to put himself above the terrorist people and other feruchemists happens, he takes it and he uses it to put himself above them.
Yeah. And he even gives himself not actually, but to himself, a moral out. I saved my friends. I didn't, you know, like, I could have, like, just destroyed all of them, because, like, that would have destroyed this whole stability that I'm making or whatever. So I'm being merciful to my friends.
I gave them immortality.
Exactly.
In the form of weird flesh blobs. And it's also like, no wonder they, like, there's the whole thing about, like, the humanoid bodies.
Yep.
And because
they originally were
people, and so, like, these new generations,
they don't have that same connection to that history.
No.
And they haven't even gone out and lived with humans and stuff. They've been in their own Kandra society for a long time now. Yep.
And so it's just like a lot of these, like, younger generations, because it's like his friends, he made immortal, and then all the rest of the feruchemists he, like, turned into just, like, random Kandra.
So he turned every living feruchemist into mistwraiths. And then specifically the ones that were his friends, he gave the spikes that turned them into Kandra. So
Right.
that's the first generation of Kandra. All the other Mistwraiths, all the other Ferrochemists were Mistwraiths.
Right. And so I guess my question is, do Mistwraiths and such reproduce?
So they've talked about, like, a few times so far that, or maybe just, like, once or twice, that the Lord Ruler would give them a certain amount per generation to go and make a new generation of Kandra. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but they would get, like, I don't remember if it's, like, 100 or something. I'm just going to throw out a number of new blessings.
Right. To turn the Mistwraiths into Kandra.
Yeah.
But is there a finite number of Mistwraiths to become Kandra? Or do the Mistwraiths, reproduce?
Don't know. So all I have... So, like, there's the one epigraph that said that it was the start of their race. Or no. Yeah, I think it was the epigraph that said it was the start of their race. I don't know if they can make more Mistwraiths. Like... Obviously, when, like, Ferrochemists aren't...
read that epigraph?
I think so. We did that one today.
Because I don't remember anything like that.
Of, what did I just say?
Like, the start of their race or whatever. It would have had to have been, like, either, like, this immediate, after this. Because, like, we're only just now getting this, so it would have had to have been, like, this, epigraph or whatever. Because otherwise it would have spoiled us on that information, essentially.
Yeah, it's right here. Sorry, it's not an epigraph. It's right here. It's just in that line. The Father transformed every living Ferrochemist into a Mistwraith, beginning that race.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because you were just saying that it was in an epigraph.
Yeah, no,
and so
it's just in this line. It's just beginning that race. So
Gotcha.
I don't...
Yeah, know if they...
Yeah. I mean, beginning that race kind of implies that, like, it can exist by themselves, in a way. I don't know.
Maybe? Like, would the Koloss be considered, like, a race? And they can only make more by, like, turning more humans into Koloss.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I wouldn't be surprised if they're, like, split off.
Yeah. Because, like, I wouldn't be, like, I could see Kandra being, like, because Kandra just sort of, like, grow and, like, collect bones and then get bigger. So I could see them kind of, like, eventually sort of mitosis-ing.
Right, that's that, yeah.
And, like, becoming two that then go off and then grow more and then, you know.
Yeah.
So I could see them doing something like that.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything, like, explicit.
But I don't think we've had it. That feels like the kind of thing that someone would have asked Brandon at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, so, like, that was, like, I remember just, like, listening to this. I was, like, because, like, I'm doing, like, delivery.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, in a parking lot. I'm just, like, listening to this, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
What? What?
What do you mean?
It's like, what the... What? Yeah. Yeah, and so then... And so he tells Seiza that...
Yeah, and so then they decide that they're going to go to the Kandra homeland. Like, the two of them are going to go. And that's the end of the chapter there.
And that's the end of the chapter. And is that...
We have one more chapter.
We have one more chapter?
Yep. 63, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Marsh shows up.
Yes. For some reason, I thought that was, like, the last... That this was, like, the last chapter that I read. But no. Yeah, the next one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, chapter 63.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure we had this chapter.
Yes.
Like, in your reading this time. I was, like, looking at it.
Right.
Yeah, so we're back with Vin. And she's talking to Ruin. And is asking, like, why'd you lead me to the Well of Ascension to free you?
Right.
And he's, like, kind of ignoring her question and is just, like, just talking about how pretty the world ending is.
Yeah.
I wish you could see it. The ash falls have grown beautiful and deep, as if the sky has shattered, raining down shards of his corpse in flakes of black. You feel the ground tremble. You know, he's...
Yeah. He's just being all dramatic about the world ending and stuff.
Yep. And Vin is still kind of picking up human quirks and stuff.
Right.
In this. Like an old man moaning as he dies, calling for his children so he can pass on his last bits of wisdom. The very ground is pulling itself apart. The Lord Ruler did much of this. You can blame him if you wish. He thought he could solve the problems himself. He rejected me, you know. And she's, like, kind of trying to figure it out as he's, like, kind of taunting her. And is basically being like, he didn't save the world, he just postponed the destruction. And he's like, the ash mounts, the dying landscape, the broken people, those were all Rashek's. The twisting of men to become Kolos, Khandra, and Inquisitor, all his. So then she comes to the conclusion that, like, it's ending, it's all done. Like, she has no more time to just sit here and try and escape, and she calls for Yeoman. She's like, tell Yeoman I want a deal.
Right.
So they, he brings her out, and they
talk some more.
Yep. And so this is when she thinks, like, oh, maybe he's an ATM misting, and I just, like...
Never knew that such a thing was possible.
Right, and, like, I need to stop relying on, like, what I've been told and just, like, you know.
Go with, like, well, clearly he can use ATM,
right,
so, like,
right.
you know.
And so she's, like, not manacled or anything, she's just kind of, like, you know.
Yeah, because, like, yeah, what can you do? You don't have any medals or anything.
And then Vin just is like, it's time to just, like, all my cards, I'm just going to give you all the information. So then he's like, you know... she explains, like, how they can control the Kolos, and, like, all of that, and,
Yeah, because the only way that we can really combat ruin isn't by continuing to fight each other, causing more ruin, but by working together, essentially.
And so then she's trying to figure out, like, how to get through to Yeoman, and he says, you claim to have killed the Lord Ruler, yet he couldn't really have died. You're part of this all somehow. That's it, Vin thought. That's my in. He wanted us to meet. Can't you see? Elend and I discovered, the other storage caverns. For some reason, the Lord Ruler wanted to lead us here, to you. So she's like, this is my, like, connection with Yeoman. I don't believe this shit, but this is all I can
use, it's like judo throwing, you know, using his weight against him. It's like, redirect the...
I like... Yeoman stood for a few moments. To the side, Ruin mimed applause. Like, good job. I just love that, like, image of him being a little dick over there.
And I love that like, Yeoman can't see Ruin, so Ruin's just, like, doing shit.
And, like, Vin's trying not to be, like, too obviously just staring at
nothing.
And, so, they're, like, talking about the ash and how, like, that's the actual problem, not the mist. And all of that. And so then he goes, she goes, but the ash is it's going to be what kills us. It will block the sunlight, bury our cities, cover our streets, choke our fields. The Lord Ruler won't let that happen, Yeoman said. And if he really is dead, then you've doomed us all. And that's the line that the Lord Ruler said when she killed him.
You've doomed us all.
And all of that. So then she's trying to figure out, like, where the locations of all the caches are, and if there's any patterns, and all of that.
Right, it's like, bring out the maps.
And she's like, does one of the maps list mineral deposits? And so she's looking for that pattern, and she realizes that is the pattern, that the caches are all next to, like, big mineral deposits. And
there's something about, like, preservation.
So it seems like he built his storages near sources of metal so that they would be safe from being changed, we assume. Or did he mean safe from being read? Lord Ruler, we made the same mistake again. We did exactly what he wanted. Because, like, the Lord Ruler put all these caches in a place where Ruin couldn't read them. Like, near big things of metal.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's like, Ruin can't change things that are put down in metal, so there's something about metal itself that, like, keeps Ruin from doing stuff. Which is interesting, considering hemalurgy does still require metal, and that's, like, a Ruin thing, so I wonder about that.
And so then she realizes, like, kind of, like, what, like, Ruin has been pushing her to find, and it's been the ATM. He's been pushing her to find the ATM. That's why she's been going and looking through it, like, for all the caches and stuff. Why had she been so infatuated with it? Elend and Yeoman were both right. ATM was of little importance in the current world, but her feelings denied that. Why? Was it because Ruin wanted it? And Vin had some unexplained connection to him?
Yeah.
And it's like, it can't read her mind, but it can affect her, like, emotions and stuff like that. And then Marsh comes in.
Yep. Because Marsh is like, hey, here you got the ATM.
Yeah. And, they have, like, a kind of interaction, like, Marsh and Yeoman, because, like, Yeoman's like, oh, it's, like, an obligator's, like, you know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, shit, this is a big deal.
Yeah. And so then he comes in, and Marsh, Ruin, through Marsh. Quickly, obligator, I did not come to protect your foolish city. I've come for the thing you discovered in that cache. My lord, your ATM, Yeoman, give it to me. I cannot take it cannot be in the city when that attack comes. In case you fall, I shall take it somewhere safe. And he's like, we don't have the ATM.
I was lying.
Yeah, it's not here. And Ruin is pissed.
Yeah, it's like Ruin needs the ATM for some reason, or needs them to not have it for some reason.
Yep. Yeah, but it wasn't Marsh that yelled, it was like Ruin. And so like Vin is like, what is like going on?
Hell?
Like, you fool, you idiot. And then like Yeoman asks for help against the like attack and everything. And Ruin's like, you're doomed. Like, no, why would I?
It's like, why the fuck would I help you?
Yep. And so then so many Kolas. My lord, there is no way to fight so many. We need your help. Why should I help you, you who fail to deliver me what I need? But I've remained faithful. When all others abandoned the Lord Ruler, I have continued to serve him. The Lord Ruler is dead. He was an unprofitable servant as well.
Yep.
And, yeah. So...
Yeah.
That's basically it. And it kind of ends the chapter with Vin coming to the conclusion that Elend is not actually going to attack. Yeoman thinks that he is. Ruin thinks that Elend's gonna attack. The last we saw Elend, he said he was going to attack. Vin is convinced, the last line of the chapter, Elend won't attack, she said quietly, because he's a better person than I am.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the end of the chapter.
And that's the end of the chapter.
So this is an extremely long video.
Yeah.
I think we should maybe talk about other things that we've read and stuff another time.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I haven't even really been...
I've been still on my Will White kick and stuff. We were going to talk about One Piece a little bit, but we can talk about that another time. Crazy chapter.
Oh yeah.
Crazy lore chapter.
If you know One Piece, you already know.
Like chapter 1138 just came out. So if you know One Piece and you know craziness, you know the chapter. It'll be a legendary chapter. Like people will talk about it for forever. You know.
Yep.
Like, it's
Oh
so.
yeah, it's crazy. but we need to wrap up the video and go watch Teching and Artur's collab video about it.
Yeah, because they're talking about the Harley text, so we got to hear different translations of
the text
of
and whatnot.
One Piece text.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So that's certainly something. But yeah, so this is the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, the episode, not the end of the podcast. And then we ended the podcast. We don't finish Hero of Ages. Finish Hero of Ages. We just leave you unsatisfied. Yeah, do the YouTube things. Yeah. We love to get comments and likes and subscribes and all that. It's nice. Hello eventually to Straub's grandmother? Yeah. If she actually...
was watching at least the beginning or whatever. So if you ever make it here, hi, Grandma. I love you.
Yeah. But yeah, this has been Let's Talk About Book. Yeah. And now you can go forth and think about book on your own time. This has been Smeevca and Straub. And have a lovely whatever time it is.
Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.